Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 6 of the Galactic Window video podcast, right here exclusively on the Orbital Alliance YouTube channel. It's good to see everybody in the chat. I already see there's quite the rolling stream of comments coming in. So glad to see it. And everybody is welcome here if you're wanting to learn something about space. So as long as you're good with that, it's going to be a fun party tonight. If you're brand new here, my name is Nick. This is the Orbital Alliance YouTube channel. You can find me on basically all of the mainstream social media platforms: YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Threads, the whole works. I love to make content about space and share astrophotography that I do and meet other people who love those same things, which is why I decided to make this podcast. It's to bring on guests who love space and explore it in their own way. That means they also have their own unique view into the universe. So that's why it's called the Galactic Window. Like, you get your own window into the galaxy, and everybody's is different. Their view is different, and they all have something to share that is unique. There's no two same humans in the world, so we all see things just a little bit differently, and I find that to be extremely exciting. So let's talk about what's been happening at the Orbital Alliance recently. We kind of just went through Christmas, so I took a little bit of a hiatus just for a hot second, just to make sure I could spend time with family. I've been riding the wave quite hot in the past few weeks, trying to amp up the goods for all of you as we go into the new year. And let's just say I've got quite a few things up my sleeve ready to come out towards all of you guys who've been supporting me all along the way. And I'm very excited about it. Just to give you a little bit of a teaser, I'm going to be rolling out the first rounds of merch, Orbital Alliance merch. That has been a long time coming. I think I've been wanting to do merch since the first year of doing this, and this is going to be year 3, which reminds me, at the top of January, I'll be celebrating the Orbital Alliance's 3rd birthday, and that's crazy. I can't even believe it. It's been the most insane journey as a content creator, and it's been so much fun to be able to share, my view of space to all you guys through this channel. So big parties coming up down the line, and I think we'll be celebrating in some extra special ways here in just a few weeks. So be on the lookout for updates regarding that merch, those merch drops, whatever it might be. Ooh. And as well as brand new content. You just don't know what that might be as well. I've got some cool stuff in the works that might be a revisit of a familiar locale that I've done content about before, as well as a couple of heavy hitting trips where I might be traveling to some locations that have potential astronomical gain. So enough keeping it absolutely aloof. Let's get to the specifics. What are we doing right now? Tonight, I'm bringing on our 6th guest onto the show. He is also one of my friends from the Astronerd community, continuing the hot streak we've got going here, and I'm incredibly excited to get to know him better. He is the guy who actually invited me into the Astronerd community on TikTok, and I have so much that I owe him for that. Somebody who took a risk on me, said, hey, you make good space content. Why don't you come join the rest of us who are also making good space content? I think that invitation to include people in something is an incredibly powerful move, and this person did that for me. So here's my favor that I'm returning to him. This is Elliot, aka Stargazer Astro. I'm going to bring in Elliot, and we're going to get to meet you together. So here we go. What's up, Elliot? How's it going, man?
Good. How are you?
Thanks so much for being here tonight and taking a chance on the Galactic Window. This is really exciting.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, dude. You are kind of one of the OG Astro nerds, isn't that right?
Yeah, I would consider myself one. Yes, it's been about 2 years since we all kind of found each other on TikTok and assembled.
Right. Like you're like one of the main six Avengers. You would have been in the first movie.
Maybe back then. I haven't been too active lately, but I need to get back into
it. Totally. Yeah. And then, life comes around and you gotta dip in and out, right? And do what you gotta do. Yep. I mean, you're a family man, so you've got priorities, right? And you're doing it right.
Yep. Definitely priorities.
Totally. Well,
I also have bad weather.
Yes, right. Like that never really is conducive of being a consistent astrophotographer, right? Or just someone who loves astronomy in general. Like, what a derailer.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Part of the hobby for sure.
Yeah, occupational hazard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, one of the things I love to do with people who come on the show is I like to just start from the beginning and get people up to speed on who you are and what your presence is. So you go by the moniker or the handle Stargazer Astro. And do you have a particular influence for that word choice?
I do not. I don't find myself to be the most creative person. I did grow. I was in school for being a digital artist, computer artist, but I never considered myself to be artsy. So I was more into the science of it, the technical aspect of it. I like how cameras work. I like how they function. It was never about traditional art and what what do you make of it, what do you think, is like I'm not a creative person. So Stargazer is just the first thing that came to my head. It's something that I've been using for usernames for a long time, and it's there's no creativity behind it at all.
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with going with the route of absolute clarity, right? Like
right.
Very few people are going to misconstrue what niche you're in by seeing that, right?
Yeah, it's pretty direct. Like as far as astrophotography goes, like I've been doing photography for a long time, but maybe the reason I like astrophotography so much is I don't find it to be too creative compared to other arts out there, because like you can't, it's not like I can change the angle on it. I can shoot it from over here, or I can shoot it from over here. The composition is there. It is what it is. Like,
right.
And it kind of takes out the creativity from a lot of it. But yeah, obviously there's some subjectivity to it. But
sure.
Yeah, I like to keep it as real as I can.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, until you start photoshopping little green aliens in your pictures, then I think you got to change your name at that point if you do.
Yeah, maybe about 15 years ago I was doing stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So like looking at you as a whole, your life so far, you obviously are very well immersed in the astro world. Like you're very experienced at astrophotography. You've done incredible work. But where did it begin for you? What was the start for you? Was it when you were a kid or way more recently?
Well, it was probably a little more recently. I guess we got a telescope in the family back when I was about 6 or so, but it was a birthday present for my brother, not for me. But I mean, we didn't know that I was going to grow up to be the person I was today. So obviously you got the scope for the wrong kid. But no, I didn't really get attached to astronomy until probably after I graduated high school, because when I graduated high school, a lot of people get graduation gifts and stuff, and I got a digital camera, DSLR, and I didn't want to be like everyone else that owns a camera out there. I wanted to be different. I wanted to be unique. Like, I'm not just going to be everyone who holds a camera is a photographer these days. So I didn't want to be one of those. I didn't want to become part of the noise. Right. So I just thought of like, what can I take pictures of that no one else takes pictures of? And I thought of stars. So I'm like, oh, star photography. So that's pretty cool. I Google star photography. I had no idea that it had a name called astrophotography. Yeah. And this is back in 2008. This is 13, 14 years ago now. And it was an extremely small community back then. There was barely any resources out there. You're lucky if you even know another astrophotographer.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's how it started. I'm like, oh, if I get a telescope that can track, a motorized telescope that can track, and I can find a way to attach my camera to it, my new camera, maybe I'll get pictures like Hubble. That's what everybody thinks.
Yes, of
When they
course.
when they first start, that's what everybody thinks.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny you mentioned kind of the era that you got started in. And I think there's a weird crossover that happened in about that 2007, 2008 period. And that's consumer digital photography really started hitting its stride at that point. Um, and in particular with video. But you might argue that even at that point in time, a lot of people, at least the veteran astrophotographers, were still clinging on to film, probably.
Yeah, yeah, and that is so cool too. Like I do have a little, I have interest in like the old ways. Like I mean, it's been a long time since I've used film, but like I'm I'm
Mhm.
I'm drawn to things like that. I like old school stuff. I like analog stuff. Even my watches I get are all analog
Yeah.
watches. I like stuff like that. So, but yeah, I think film astrophotography would have been really cool if I could ever get a time to do it. I think that'd be awesome.
I mean, I smell a content opportunity if I ever saw one right now.
I'm gonna have to start buying some different equipment then.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you got to restart from the beginning and, throw all the stuff you have out onto the curb. You don't need it
Right.
anymore.
Uh,
Oh man, that would hit hard.
You're making me twitch.
Yeah, right. Totally. I can feel it through the internet. Well, just kidding, of course. So yeah, I mean that's a really cool story. I love that you um weren't necessarily the one to get the telescope, but you ended up being the one in your family who gravitated towards it. And maybe there's something to say about indirect influence that might be more powerful than direct influence. I don't know.
Well, I mean, obviously it was influential enough for me to remember that it's a memory that's burned in my head, even though that's not when I got into astronomy. I do remember vividly going out to the telescope and looking at Saturn and its rings for the first time, and
Mhm.
that's even though, again, even though I didn't really get attached to it back then, that was burned into my head. So I always have that memory. But
Yeah,
yeah.
totally. Yeah. So as you kind of grew with your desire to learn more about like the knowledge of astronomy, of course, they had to learn about the knowledge of the equipment and all the things that go with it and kind of combine those two. And that kind of, would you say that that brought you to where you are today? Maybe like when you started getting into TikTok and maybe what started you in the astro nerd community? Like, what did that journey look like for you as you got confident with it and started feeling like, no, I've got a grasp on this. I know what I'm doing.
Well, I mean, um, I think the motivation comes from the passion.
Hmm.
Um, my passion, man, it's hard to tell what came first, whether it was motivation or the passion. I knew what I wanted. I knew what I wanted, and I started with a telescope, and I was willing to do anything it took to get to where I wanted to be. So, I guess the more I did it, and the more production, the more good things I saw come of it, the more it motivated me to move forward with it. And there comes a point that you know that you're going to be doing it for the rest of your life, and I think I'm well past that point.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's like when you're doing it, God, I don't know, like I was probably a few years into it by the time I realized that I was going to be doing it for the rest of my life, because there's a lot of people, they only get so far into it before they just get impatient and they say, oh, it's not for me. But yeah, so that was solidified pretty early in my life, probably, when I was in my late teens or so, 20 or 21 years old.
Mhm.
And yeah, so they fueled each other. The passion fueled the hobby fueled the no, sorry, the passion fueled the motivation, and the motivation kept the passion going. So and it just kept on growing, and it has not stopped. It's just growing exponentially. So
Yeah, you've essentially initiated the fusion reactor within you, right?
right, exactly. There's no stopping it now.
No, yeah, it's just gonna grow
It's a
and
chain reaction.
exactly, yeah. Well, that's really cool. I love that. I would say I probably had a similar experience. Obviously not 100% identical, but I think there is I would resonate with how you describe that. There is a moment where you kind of accept that I just may have been made for this, you know?
Yeah, I think one of the other, I mean, it probably started with the memory of the telescope, getting a camera, and then there was like a third memory where I remember going to a friend of mine's house, and they had a DIY, I don't know, 4 or 5 inch Dobsonian telescope, and they had it out on their back deck. And I was interested in astronomy already, but I did not know at that point that you could see visually other nebulae, and I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know that you could even I knew you could see the planets, but I didn't know you could see nebula.
Right.
And so I guess they showed me the Orion Nebula, and I could not believe that I was seeing ionized gas through this DIY telescope on the back deck with my
Yeah.
own eyes. I was blown away, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's yeah. So that's another memory that got burned into me.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, who would have thought? I mean, you could be doing something like that, or there's probably an Elliot in another universe who is like a farmer or something, like who's like,
Something that I would never do. Yeah, probably.
who is like, man, I'll never forget the first time someone showed me corn and and or wheat, and and I never turned back. I found that the fusion reactor started growing, and now I've got 100 acres. Yeah, it's cool. It's really, really cool. So how did you get to know some of the key astronauts in the beginning that kind of spurred the creation of this Discord group and the greater community?
Well, there came a time about 2 years ago when this whole thing started, where I'm scrolling. I'm well through scrolling through TikTok at that point, and then it occurred to me that, hey, I could probably find some more people like me on here. So I started, instead of just aimlessly scrolling, I started searching astrophotography, telescope, things like that, and I come across some people. The first one I came across, I think, was Tan chasing the milk, giving a
Yep.
live stream. And he was live streaming through his telescope with night vision, looking at different objects in the sky, different deep sky targets. And he was pretty new. Also, he's pretty new to the hobby as well. But he got right on. He as soon as he got interested, he threw his camera on it and started streaming it.
Yep.
And so I remember I went in the chat and I started giving him some suggestions to look at, because I was fairly familiar, only 2 years ago, I was fairly familiar with a lot of the big name targets in the sky that he might be able to see with the night vision camera. So it was Tan first, and probably after that, John and Ryan and Roman, those guys. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Snowball effect after that.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a similar conversation with Tan. He was of course, our fourth episode guest here, and I believe he was the first person I found as well. I was not as early as you were, but it was, yeah. Tan has certainly led the way for a lot of us.
Yeah, he jumped right on it, and he got a decent following pretty quickly. So yeah, he wasn't hard to find.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Really quick, I want to pause and address the chat. Welcome in, everybody. It's good to see all of you here. Of course, if you've been around for a while, you know that you can comment, and we'll do our best to feature you guys in here. Let's see, where can we go here? Let's see, bring it back. I know we've got a couple of astronauts here. Blue Eye Devil showing the love. We've got Karen. Hello, Karen. Kif Dog, what's up, brother? Good to see you. We got Daz. Going down the line. Tara T Div Astro, who was on our previous episode 5. This is Tara. You're an official Galactic Window veteran now. So welcome back. I'm glad I didn't scare you away. That's good news. Oh man. Let's see. And I saw Joe Godfather, our OG veteran from episode 1 of the Galactic Window. If you guys who are watching have not seen any previous episodes, definitely go check them out. There's a whole playlist on my channel, and you can enjoy them on your own time. Let them run, listen to 2 of them while you work, and you can enjoy fun conversations with all these fun astro nerds. So good to see everyone here. Keep saying hi, ask some questions along the way. I'll do my best to pay attention and help feature them. So anyway, yeah. So, Elliot, you,
Yeah.
of course, we've been talking all about how you got into it. Obviously, astrophotography and astronomy. There are so many different foci. How do you want to say that? Focuses that are within those greater umbrellas. What niche within that would you say you identify most with? Like, which type of photography, which type of imagery, or areas of study?
Well, it's changed a lot throughout the year. When I mean years plural. When I first started, I wanted everything. I mean, I mostly wanted the Orion Nebula because everybody shoots the Orion Nebula first. Everyone knows that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, and obviously, I only had one camera at the time, so I was shooting everything with the same, the same rig, same scope, same camera. So I did, some nebulae, and I did some star clusters. I did some planets. I did the moon. It took me a while to get a solar filter, but eventually I got into that. But as I started, growing and learning that, there are certain, equipment pairings that work better for one type of photography compared to another type of photography, and I started to learn that my rig in particular was not the best rig for actually anything, honestly. So I mean, like, it was a Schmidt Cassegrain, so in that sense it has a long focal length that'd be good for planetary, but the camera I was using doesn't have small pixels, so that kind of defeats the purpose of that. But I was most interested in deep sky astrophotography, so nebulae and galaxies and stuff. But little did I know going into it that focal ratio is a big part of that. That is the amount of light that it takes in. So it's the focal length divided by the aperture gives you your focal ratio. And the higher the number, the less light it collects. It collects light slower. And mine was an f10, which, if you don't know, is super slow for
Yeah.
collecting light. So I didn't really have the best pairing for anything in particular. But as I started growing and getting equipment with specific purpose to combine with each other nicely, I did find myself growing into shooting deep sky targets more. The faint fuzzies is what they call them. So that's
Yeah.
your galaxies and your nebulae. And then I guess more, recently in the past, I don't know, recently, I'm going to say 5 years, 6 years is recent
Yeah.
for me.
Right.
I've definitely geared myself more towards nebulae in particular, compared to globular clusters or galaxies or comets or something like that. I feel like nebulae are just they don't have any. If you compare it with a galaxy, nebulae don't have borders as
Mm.
much as a galaxy does. Galaxies are pretty much mostly a disk or a ball, and but they have a very pretty defined border.
Yeah, they're contained, right?
Nebulae, they can keep on going out, and the more integration time you collect, the more you can start bringing that out to the edge of the frames, and you start losing that darkness, and sooner or later your entire frame is just filled with nebulosity you didn't know that was there to begin with. So I guess I liked the challenge in trying to bring out more of that fainter nebulosity as compared to a galaxy. I mean, I'm not, the galaxies aren't challenging. They certainly are, but in their own way.
Yeah.
I just like a frame full of this expanding gas. So
Sure.
they're also completely unique compared to galaxies. Galaxies are unique in their own way, but they're mostly some kind of disk or elliptical ball of some sort.
Mhm.
Nebulae, everyone is different. It's like every cloud in the sky is unique in its own way. It doesn't look like any other cloud in the sky. So.
Yeah. Man. Well, and there's this like wonderful assortment of catalogs to choose from, right? There's this it's a huge number of objects. So you it's hard to get bored with deep sky objects too, right?
Yeah, it's never ending. And the catalog, you think all the catalogs, and there's more catalogs than you were aware of.
Yeah.
Always new
Right.
catalogs coming out with all these new discoveries lately.
True. Yeah. Well, and there's yeah, different wavelengths of the same object, and they can look entirely different. And gosh, who's the creator? Is it Bray Falls? Do you know Bray Falls?
Everybody knows Bray.
Yeah, right. Yeah, totally. Like, I mean, he's discovering all these crazy things in these different wavelengths that nobody's seen before. And I mean, who'd have thought stuff that's like
Um,
right there, you know?
he's mostly focusing on the oxygen wavelength, because the hydrogen alpha wavelength is the most prominent. It's the most prominent, brightest gas out there, and everybody's looking at hydrogen alpha because it's the brightest thing. But he's he's taken 2 steps ahead, and he's looking at the stuff that they haven't been focusing on. They have full sky surveys of hydrogen alpha, but nobody has really done a full sky survey of oxygen. So he's jumping the gun, and well, not jumping the gun, but he's taking that opportunity to get on that and start discovering all these objects he didn't know were there, because everyone's focusing on hydrogen alpha. And not only are they looking at that specific wavelength, but they're looking at it this closely, and
Yeah.
he's not only looking at a different wavelength over here, he's looking at it much wider. So he's looking at huge swaths of skies and doing these huge mosaics, and that's how he's discovering these things. A lot of things that NASA never discovered before, because they're too far zoomed in. Some of these targets they're looking at are 5, 7, 8 degrees wide.
Yep.
Several moon diameters, huge. So
yeah, gosh. It's it makes you just think about how terrible our eyes really are. I mean, they're amazing, but at the same time, like, there's so much that we cannot see. Obviously, we're at a disadvantage. We're looking through an atmosphere. We've got a bright star right next to us, obscuring our vision. But the limited nature of the human eye, and we're discovering this equipment that can supplement it in such a way that we can see these things. But even now, we're still finding new ways to see the same thing, and it's blowing our minds collectively.
Yeah. So, like, most people have seen a picture or a diagram of the electromagnetic spectrum as like a line. So here's this wavelength, there's X-rays and microwaves and radio waves and all these things, and all the way in the center is this little tiny slice of a rainbow, and that's what we see. That's the visible spectrum.
Right,
so,
Biv, Mr. Biv.
Yeah, exactly. It's just this never-ending spectrum of light. Light just doesn't really, I don't know if it has limits or not, but it just keeps on getting longer and keeps on getting shorter, and there's so much that we can't see.
Right. Here's a good question from my buddy Josh. What's the most distant object an observer from Earth can reasonably photograph? That may not be answerable, but if you have an idea, love to hear you weigh in.
That's really, I don't know a specific object, but I mean, with some reference, our nearest neighboring galaxy, the Andromeda Galaxy, that we are on a collision course with, is 2.5 million light years away. And you can see that with the naked eye if you have dark enough skies and you know where to look, and you have a trained eye, and you can, I mean, a lot of people, it's hard for them to see it, and they don't think they're seeing anything, but eventually you start learning that your peripheral vision can actually see fainter targets better than looking directly at something.
Yep.
So if you know exactly where you're looking, and you know what you're looking for, and you kind of have a trained eye to look for these kind of things, you can see the Andromeda Galaxy no problem. I can see it. I have Portal 4.5 where I'm living right now, on a scale of 9. So I'm like right in the middle. It's just dark enough to see the Milky Way, and I can see the Andromeda Galaxy with my naked eye. So, I mean, there's plenty of astrophotographers out there shooting galaxies much, much, much further away than that, from Earth. I mean, the biggest limiting factor of Earth's atmosphere is, the seeing. So it's going to affect your resolution and, how sharp or blurry something looks. But most of the light is still getting through somehow or some way or another. So whether it looks sharp or it looks like a blur, you can still see that light technically. So it really depends on your definition of, what counts as a photograph.
Right. For sure. Yeah, that's a good question, Josh. Thanks for asking. But here's a little follow-up. He moved in different position here. To define collision course, do we need airbags?
No, actually you don't. Because I mean, if you back up enough, it looks like two objects just smacking into each other, but they actually don't. It's more like if you shot two puffs of gas at each other, the gas would kind of pass right through each other, but gravity is gonna take play, and it's going to eventually swing back and forth and eventually settle into one galaxy. But the stars will not hit each other, because people underestimate how vast the distance is between all the stars in the galaxy. They're so vast, so far apart, that none of the stars are ever going to collide with each other. It's like trying to throw a marble at another marble from, Los Angeles, from New York. It's like it's not going to happen.
Right.
So
It's a brilliant visualization. I love it.
yeah.
We also need to try it and make it happen.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get the Mythbusters on here.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm also seeing a lot of wonderful support for you here, Elliot. You've made a huge impact on a lot of these people in the group, which is
Karen is an
awesome.
OG. She's been here from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. And
She's one of the best moderators out there, and she's doing her own stuff now. She's got her own telescope.
yeah, she
Doing
is.
some awesome stuff. Yeah.
Karen's great. Karen's great. Tara also is preaching your name for sure. Getting a lot of mentorship from you as well, in particular
Thanks,
to
Tara.
DSO, Deep Sky.
I love being able to help people. I don't know. It's rewarding. It's you gotta share the knowledge.
Right. Yeah.
You're selfish if you're keeping it to yourself.
Totally. But I don't think that's a quality that's necessarily like given. It's definitely something I think that you gain or you train yourself to do. And there's some people who do withhold knowledge or withhold opportunities for people. And I think that's what makes people like you extra special, is when it's like, no, you're like, I'm all in. And I think we all win when we're all learning. Right.
I don't know. I think it's a fine line when you're talking about interest versus passion. And people can be interested in something for another motivation, another reason. But if you're passionate enough about something, it's kind of hard not to share. That's why people, I'm guessing people probably get irritated when I start talking about, oh, he's talking about space again. But I can't help it. You get so passionate about something, you can't help but share it and talk about it. And I'm sorry for the people that don't want to hear it, but I can't help myself. But it's helpful for the people that do want to hear it. So.
Right. Absolutely. I wish there were more people in the world who would get to that point, who would get their fusion reactor moment to where it is just spilling over. Like they can't contain it. And like, imagine a world where every single human had figured that out. And I think we're so far from that, unfortunately. But I think there are a lucky few who do, Yeah,
for sure. Yeah,
man. What would you say has been one of your most challenging targets in astrophotography that you've like nailed? Like, I got it. It was really hard, but I got it.
Nailed, man. I'm bouncing between two targets right now. One for sure. Sorry, Dazzle. The squid. The squid is so ridiculously faint. It was only recently discovered in like 2011 or something like that by some young amateur, and so like, because of how recently it was discovered, just goes to show you how faint the thing actually is. I spent 2 months, not total integration time, 2 months total just shooting it. And I've never spent 2 months shooting a single target before. And even then, it was the hardest thing I've ever processed. Normally, I will go back and reprocess data to see if I can get better results.
Sure.
And normally I can get better results. The more I process something, the better I can get at it. But for some reason, I cannot beat the very first time I processed the squid. It was that hard that everything had to be done so perfectly with, processing the data that, if you didn't do it exactly the same way as you did the first time, it's not going to be the same. And it just came out terrible every single time I tried doing it after that. So I processed it like 20 times, and only the first time what I call acceptable.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
Because it was that faint. It was so hard.
So the squid is a nebula, is that correct?
The squid is a nebula. It's mostly ionized oxygen. It's O3.
Okay.
The part that makes it challenging, though, is that it sits on top of it overlays it. It sits in front of another nebula behind it, which is hydrogen. It's hydrogen alpha. So the two are overlapping, which makes it really difficult. But.
Yeah. Well, and so for explanation's sake, nebula, or at least nebulae that we can see, are all within our own galaxy, right? They're typically not beyond the Milky Way. Is that correct?
Mostly, but if you see my Andromeda picture behind me, all of this red pinkish stuff going around the galaxy. Those are all emission nebulae, just like the ones we're shooting, but in another galaxy. The closer to the galaxy, the easier they are to see, which is why they're so easy to see in M31 because it's our nearest neighboring galaxy. But M33 is the second largest galaxy in the sky that you can see, and that also has some very prominent, distinct emission nebulae within it that you can see, just like this. But yeah, for the most part, nebulae. Pictures of a single nebula, are usually within our own galaxy. So you're not going to be able to fill the frame with, one of these little guys here.
Totally. Yeah. Well, and that's what makes it kind of crazy to me, is that all these things are basically like on our universal street. they're really close to us, so to speak, but they're yet so insanely hard to image sometimes, right?
Yeah. I think a lot of people, because we have no depth perception when we're looking at things that at that distance. I can see the difference between my hand here and my other hand here. I can see the difference because my eyes have to change focus from here to here.
Right.
But when you're looking at those kind of distances, your eyes are always at the same focus. Doesn't matter how far away they are. So it's like when you have pictures like this, it looks like, the stars and the galaxy are all, in the same realm, but it's more like these stars that you see are this, and the galaxy you see is way, 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 way in the background. So it's more like a window that you're looking through.
Sure. A galactic window.
Okay, there you
Sorry.
go. The stars of the galactic window, the
Cheap
galaxy
plug.
is in the background, the thing that you're looking at way out in the background.
Right. Tara did the squid bamboozle you?
The squid has bamboozled probably everyone who's tried to photograph it.
Yep, it's the ultimate bamboozler. And here Joe is now discouraged.
I've never tried the squid. No, you will. You'll get there. You'll get the courage. So, I think the more you do something, the more you astrophotography in general, the more you feel the desire to push forward and what's the next step? How can I take this further? Okay, what can I do now? And I'm the last time I shot the Orion Nebula, I could not tell you. I don't know. 8 years ago, 9 years ago, maybe. But I'm probably not going to shoot it anymore because I've taken steps further. So my desire is kind of more shifted towards the more challenging targets. So everyone's posting pictures of, the same big brand name nebulae that everybody else and their mother is shooting. But I've gotten to the point where I'm trying to find things that barely have been photographed before. So,
right.
And I think Bray Falls probably was a pretty big inspiration for that. Being able to see things that no one else has seen before. So I that's kind of got caught in my head. So I started going after the harder stuff, and that's kind of where I'm going now, except for this guy's pretty recent. I know he's one of the big brand name targets, but I haven't shot it in a long time, and I wanted to get a decent. I never had like a decent shot of it. I wanted to get a decent one.
Sure. Every now and then you have to go back to your home basketball court and just school the kids, right? You're playing in the NBA, but you got to go show up the neighborhood kids every now and then. Right?
For some reason, as far as as much as astrophotography as I've done, 10 years later, for some reason, Andromeda was always really hard, and I cannot put my finger on why. I cannot. Yeah. I don't know why, but I'm pretty happy with the way this one's coming out. So
yeah, it is an amazing photo.
Thanks.
I know in just a moment here, we can maybe, if you have it, we could look at some of your work. I know we're already getting some requests here. My friend Ron had asked if he could see your squid pic. I don't know if you have that prepared or if that's something you want to show, but
I'll show him a squid pic.
Yeah, yeah, just like random squid from like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea or something. Yeah, cool.
I got it. Sure.
Cool. Oh my gosh. What's up, Astrovisional? I'm seeing you in here. Hello. How's it going, man? Good to see you. Oh my gosh. Just a reminder, everybody, if you're joining in just now, you can feel free to chime in the chat. It'd be great to hear from everybody who's walking in at any point in the show. Obviously, there's no pressure. You've been here from the beginning. You can come in wherever you want and enjoy learning about space, astrophotography, and all the good stuff in between. Would also like to use this as a chance to ask you to support the channel here. And would you please consider subscribing to the Orbital Alliance? That would help out a ton. And you can, of course, catch up on past episodes of the Galactic Window whenever you want. We got 6 episodes now after tonight, and many more to come down the pipe. I'm currently in talks with future guests, and the good stuff is happening in 2024. So thank you guys for being here. Appreciate your continued support.
Joe's here for the real Squid Games.
Oh my gosh. Astro Squid Games, dude. That's got to happen. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Only less dying.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. I don't know. It kind of makes you want to die sometimes shooting that thing. That thing is ridiculously hard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's potential. I mean, the idea is just keep coming in tonight for random content opportunities, and I'm like taking a lot of mental notes. So,
right.
Well, I mean, do you want to hop into a screen share, and do you want to show some of your favorite images that you've captured?
Yeah, sure.
That was a fun part of the show.
That was present, right?
Yeah, you go to present. Pick a window, preferably, if you've got your Explorer or Finder.
Let me get this up here.
No worries.
Present slides. Is it share screen or slides? I don't remember.
So go to share screen. Yep.
Okay. Share screen. Share screen.
And then there's a tab that should say window.
There we go. All right. Here we go.
Joe, dying inside is part of the hobby. Oh man.
All right. I've got it up here.
There's always something to, just get under your skin, right?
Right. All right. We're sharing now.
Okay, great. I'm gonna add it in here in just a second. Let me just here we go. Success. I see your image.
All right. So yeah, this is the image I was talking about. The blue guy up in the upper right hand corner up here. This was the squid that I was referring to. It was. I'm very humbled by that target. Anybody who goes to shoot that target, I really give a lot of credit to, because I've been through what they've been through, and I know how hard it was. so I'm always interested when I see someone posting that. So,
would you be able to zoom scroll in over to the squid a little bit more? Can you tighten up the shot for us?
Yeah, it gets nasty and grainy, and you can see all the imperfections. But yeah, so that's how it's looking.
It looks fantastic, dude.
So that is the squid, obviously, and the red hydrogen alpha gas that is sitting on top of is what's known as the flying bat. I don't know where they got that name from, but that is the flying bat nebula. And it just added a whole another level of challenge to it because of the fact that they're overlaying on top of it.
Yeah, that's insane.
And so I mean, the idea was to get the two of these, actually 3 nebulae in this shot here. So you got the squid, the flying bat, and the IC-1396 is this big guy over here. The elephant trunk is this guy here, this strand here. So the idea was to get them all in one composition, but my real focus was that squid. And man, I don't even remember how many. I think I shot almost 30 hours of just oxygen just for that squid. Just oxygen, not even including hydrogen. So it really requires it, though.
Dude, this makes me like, I mean, as with all nebula, you just want to go swimming through it. Like you just want to be able to travel light years at a time and just
exactly.
What
I mean, what I was thinking about is what I was referring to before about how nebulae almost have no borders. If you saw someone else's photograph of this that only had an hour of integration time, hypothetically, you might only see like this part here, and you might only see like the brightest parts and maybe a little bit of the elephant trunk, but the edges, the perimeter of these of the photo would probably be pretty dark and black. But the more integration time you collect, the more you can start bringing out the faint nebulosity that you didn't know was there before, and it keeps expanding and expanding until the point I didn't even realize there was hydrogen kind of these filaments kind of going between these two nebulae here. Do you see this faint this
Yeah.
faint red dust going between the two. I didn't know I was there. So
Hmm.
that's what I meant by nebulae not really having, borders. Some of them do, but
Sure. Sure. Yeah, that's nuts.
yeah,
I mean, it's for as empty as space apparently is. It's quite
it's
full, isn't it?
it's not empty at all. Yeah, if you could collect as much integration time as you could possibly get until there's just diminishing returns, and just shot the whole sky like that, there'd be no blackness probably. I don't
Right.
know. It'd be pretty hard to find a dark part of the sky.
Sure. Right. Man, that's nuts. Well, dude.
But most of these nebulae, these emission nebula in particular, the ones that we're looking at, those are mostly your red and your blue hydrogen and oxygen nebulae. Those are the emission ones. They tend to be very large, and they tend to be within the plane of our galaxies. So, um, if you remember the hydrogen alpha picture, I'm going to move out of the way here. The hydrogen kind of running through the Andromeda galaxy over here. You can see that it's kind of um, in the plane of the galaxy. It's within that frisbee. It's not really sitting above it or below it. It's within the plane. So when you're looking up at the Milky Way, most of these emission nebula you see are going to be sitting within or very near the Milky Way belt that you see going across the sky. So you're not gonna. That's why we call them nebulae in galaxy season. So when one part of the Milky Way, like the summer Milky Way, sets for the season and fall comes in, well now the plane has kind of leveled out with your horizons, and now when you look up, you're looking either above or below the galaxy, above or below the Milky Way. So that's what's above or below the Milky Way, other galaxies. So that's
Yeah.
why they call it galaxy season.
Sure. Sure. Cool. Yeah, dude. Well, congratulations on achieving this. And whenever you get your sanity back, I'm sure you'll revisit it in the future, and I'm sure you'll get an even better image. I have no doubt you'll be able to do it.
It was a tough one to beat. I don't know. We'll see.
Yep.
It's-
You might be old and gray, but you'll take another shot. I can feel
I
it.
don't know. I mean, like as I said, the targets are never ending. I don't know that I'll ever have time to come back to this.
Yep.
Depends on how fed up I get with the fainter stuff.
Right. Sure. 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 Sweet, dude. Well, yeah. Do you have more in the pipe here?
I got a lot. Yeah, sure.
Sweet,
Let
dude.
me
Yeah. Take it
see
away.
what else we got here. Well, can I if I close this window, then it's going to stop the screen share. So I'll probably just end up scrolling through it or something, right?
Yeah. If you have it all in the same like folder, you can just like
Yeah.
advance to the next one. Do you need to close
Yeah.
out and
No,
make
no, no. I'm just kind of like right in the middle of all the pictures, so I have to
gotcha.
choose whether to go back or forwards.
Totally. Yeah, whatever you wish. No
So
worries.
this is Karen's favorite. Karen, here you go. This is the Heart and the Soul Nebulae. Um, Again, it was
Wow.
intentional to get these photographed within the same composition, within the same frame here.
Sure.
Um, so obviously you can see the pretty distinct heart shape of this, and it's got some oxygen in the back. And then this is the Soul Nebula. No one knows what a soul looks like, so that's up for grabs, up for
unless you've
interpretation
seen
there.
unless you've seen the movie Soul, then they definitely have depicted those.
I have not.
It's like a Pixar movie.
Oh, oh yes, that's right. I did not see that yet, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. But yeah, I can see it though. I get what they're doing.
Yeah. This is one of those big name targets that I always wanted to get when I bought the lens. This is by the way, this is the 135 millimeter Rokinon lens. This is not a telescope.
Okay.
Telescopes and lenses, there's a kind of a fine line between where they transition from one to the other, but this is just the lenses. It was meant for a Canon DSLR. So this is a very short focal length relatively compared to other telescopes and stuff. So, but yeah, this is one of those targets that I always wanted to get in the same frame.
Yeah.
So I really got a passion for the wide field stuff. Because I mean, everybody is shooting at those longer focal lengths to begin with. Everyone's shooting the same stuff at the same focal length. Not too many people are going the other way. Everyone's wanting more and more magnification, but bigger is not always better. Back off a little bit. Sometimes
Right.
get things with a different perspective. So.
Yeah, well, that's like going back to what you said earlier tonight. You had mentioned how you were self-claiming that you're not much a creative, or that there's not much room for creativity because it's all kind of the same. You can't like reposition yourself, but the creativity lies
Yeah.
both in the processing and even your ability to adjust your focal length or
Yeah,
magnification.
yeah.
Yeah.
Magnification and subjective processing is really as much as you can do, I think.
Mhm.
I think, some people will um, take a lot of creative liberties and making it more art than science. I prefer to be, in the science realm of it. I prefer to keep it as natural, as scientifically accurate as possible. Some people will they'll go into Photoshop and start doing compositions and merging photos together and making all kinds of wacky colors, and that's where I start calling it art.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
yeah, I don't go that way.
Hey, Alan, welcome in. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Just saying hi real quick.
What's going on, Alan?
Yeah,
Let's
dude. I
see.
mean, it's cool to see the different focal lengths here, and um, what you can do with the different types of equipment. And of course, with the when you're using a camera like a DSLR, like you're still using to do the same type of photography, deep sky. You're using a tracker. This is just because you got the lens doesn't mean you're going to be able to nail a shot like this. You have to be sitting in the same spot, just like you would with the telescope, right?
Yeah. So the telescope's got to sit in the same spot of the sky for as long as you're patient for, and a lot of people don't have the patience for it.
Or have weather for.
Right. Where I am in the Rochester area is not great in the winter. The skies are clear, maybe 10% of the time, maybe. So it's very rare that I get clear skies here. But yeah, so the telescope has to point in the same sky all night long, as for as long as you're willing to sit for. I have gotten to the point of automation, so I like letting it run all night while I sleep because I can't stay up with it late anymore, and it just takes longer to shoot a target if you're gonna have to stay up with it every single night and close up shop when you're done or when you get too tired. So,
Mhm.
so the more integration time, the better.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's a gift that we have as modern astrophotographers is the ability to just let stuff run and let the computers do the work for you.
Mhm.
That's so cool.
I mean, not that they're taking away your work for you, but I mean, they're doing the same thing that they were going to do either way. But I think the whole point of automation was so that I could go to sleep knowing that it was going to be okay on its own.
Right,
Like
right, right.
if I'm going to stay awake with it, I'm not doing anything different. I'm just making sure it doesn't kill itself.
For sure. Yeah, I mean it's like an autopilot in an airplane. Like the pilot still has to take off and get you to cruising altitude. You got to get it in the right place, then let it just keep you on course, and then you can take over afterwards.
Right, and the biggest concern for most people is, most people stay up with it because eventually, it will hit a limit. The mount will hit a limit. It'll hit a meridian flip, and if your mount isn't capable of meridian flips, and you got to be there for it, or if it is capable of meridian flips, then you might want to be there for it anyway just to make sure it survives the flip and doesn't crash into something. And then, even if that's all good, at the end of the night, you want to make sure that the scope doesn't, continue tracking all the way down and hit the leg of the tripod. If your mount is capable of going into a home or parking position, you want to make sure it does that. But yeah, so that's where I have it all set up to go on its own, and I can just go to sleep knowing it's going to be okay.
Yeah, right.
Don't have to babysit it.
Can you define meridian flip? I think I know what it means. Like, is that like where the mount has to kind of like reposition itself a little bit as you're like reaching a certain point in the sky? It like kind of runs into
Right.
itself a little
So
bit.
so to start off, I have to describe the difference between an alt-az mount and an equatorial mount. So an
Mm.
alt-az mount is it's designed for a person to be looking down on the eyepiece without ever having to flip upside down and look at the eyepiece this way. An alt-az mount moves in the azimuth and the altitude position, but it always, I'm going to use my thumbs here as the eyepiece. It always keeps the eyepiece pointed up at your face as it's tracking across the sky. So it uses two axes to do that, but it's not it's not ideal for astrophotography because that's not how the Earth moves. The Earth does not move on two axes; it moves on one axis, and
Mhm.
that's where an equatorial mount comes in. So an equatorial mount, the one axis is pointed at the North Celestial Pole. So if you were to look at an eyepiece that's mounted on a telescope on an equatorial mount, depending on which side of the mount you're on, you might be looking at it down this way, or you might be able to, you might have to look at it like, breaking your back and looking at it up there,
Right.
because it's going to, instead of doing this, it's doing this. So it's only moving on one axis, you know.
Totally. Totally.
Um, so because of that, there comes a point where the mount, when the target gets up to the meridian, to if you were watching this target go across your head, you would have to be, your head works on an alt azimut, so your head kind of does this flip as it goes around, so your head is kind of twisting as it
Right.
goes straight over the zenith. But the mount itself, it can track up to the meridian, but then it has to flip around and
Yeah.
point back at it so that it can continue tracking down and not hit the mount. Because if it tracks past the meridian, then you risk the mount. You risk the scope smacking into the mount somehow, whether it's on the
Right.
tripod or the base of the mount somehow. So that needs to not happen. So
Yeah.
so it flips around to the other side of the mount and points back at the target, which means your image is going to be flipped upside down compared to the first half of your imaging session.
For sure. For sure.
So
Cool. Thank you. That was really helpful. I wanted to make sure like I understood it, but I'm sure if I was questioning it, there was certainly going to be somebody else watching who'd be like, what's a meridian flip? Is that an energy drink? Like,
yeah. So I should clarify, the meridian is the imaginary line that cuts your sky into two hemispheres. That goes usually from north to south.
hmm,
Due north to due south. So that's going to be your meridian, and along the meridian, straight above your head, is going to be your zenith. So
yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. Thanks for that.
yeah,
Cool. Well, do you want to hit the next image or do you have more
yeah,
to say
let's
about this one?
go. Let's go. Oh God, this one. Ooh, I was happy and very angry about this image. This is. Oh man, I had that screen maximized there. So this photograph is the Horsehead Nebula, and this is, so I was shooting with the 135 millimeter lens for like 2 or 3 years, and I loved it. I still love it. It's my favorite optics that I own for astrophotography. But this is when I started gearing back to, oh, I should get the Newtonian back out, because I finally got a mount that's able to handle the weight of my Newtonian. So
Yeah.
I whipped the Newtonian back out and started working on it and getting it ready for deep sky astrophotography. And then suddenly I saw these massive halos that I didn't have with my lens. These halos are obnoxious and it's unreasonable. So I love this image except for this obnoxious halo around Alnitak. And Alnitak is, if there's going to be one star to create any kind of halo, it's going to be this star. It's notorious for creating halos because it's one of the brightest stars out there.
Yeah.
Um, but so yeah, this was due to my filters apparently, combined with my Newtonian. Um, I had the same filters on my small 135 millimeter lens, but they were so small they just kind of looked like they were part of the star. So I never saw them before. I never realized they were there. But ever since I put them on the Newtonian, then I started seeing them. So
Yeah.
this is the point where I upgraded my filters to something different that were not as reflective. So these filters were astronomic filters, and they have obviously some reflection issues. So I was told that I didn't get the right ones, though. Apparently there are specific astronomic filters meant for deep sky astrophotography, and these were not one of them. So
Gotcha.
so that was on me, I guess, partially, but
Well, there's only one way to learn, right?
exactly. That's the whole hobby, is learning the hard way. Yo, what's up, Tan? Didn't see you in here.
I just saw Tan jump in, another Galactic Window veteran, episode 4. What's
Yeah.
up, my friend? Welcome in.
Right. Let me move on. Okay, this was one of my more recent targets, and this is the other target I was thinking of that was probably one of my more challenging targets here. This doesn't have really much of a name, this target. It might be because it's part of a broader area, LBN 420 maybe.
Hmm.
But this strand of dust here itself does not have much of a name.
Okay. You get to name it then, right? It's your call. You get to do
No, I didn't.
it.
I didn't say I discovered it. I didn't discover it. It's always been there. But it was one of those targets that when I was talking about before, it was one of those targets that I had only found 2 or 3 photographs of before I took it upon myself to photograph of it.
Hmm.
Um, it was hardly. I searched all over the internet, could not find it anywhere except for 2 or 3 images. And so I think I jumped on this one pretty early compared to most, and I like shooting stuff that not many people have seen before.
Hmm. Wow.
So yeah, this was a very challenging target.
Yeah. So the nebula in the center, it's like this a whitish color. What wavelength is that in then?
I mean, if you think of white light is all parts. It's red, green, and blue. It's all the
Mhm.
light combined. When you look at the sun is a white star. It's all of the light. The whole spectrum.
Okay.
But this is in particular, this is a reflection nebula, so it is reflecting the light of nearby stars. It is
Hmm.
not being ionized like the red gas is in the back. So the red that you
Right.
see that's hydrogen alpha that is being ionized and it is glowing by the nearby stars. So there's a
Hmm.
difference between radiating and glowing compared to reflecting light. So the reason
Yeah.
you can see me is because I am reflecting light, but if you looked at my light bulb over here, that is emitting light. So that's why we call them emission nebula.
A lot of people in our TikTok chats would disagree with you. You are definitely emitting your own light, sir. Uh,
Am I glowing? Oh,
yeah, yes, just like the moon. Uh, I see a lot of comments here talking about that brought up an interesting point here. Um, Ron had called out a disc that he saw, and then the chat following is talking about galaxies also in this shot, which I definitely see.
yeah, so man, I should have brought up the starless image. I do have a starless version of this image that's not in the folder, so I can't show it to you unless I hold my phone up to the webcam. But if you took out all the stars, which I do normally do with as part of my processing workflow, um, everything that's remaining is going to be galaxies and nebulae. So I when I removed all the stars, I, I counted them by hand, and there's about 40 galaxies in the background here.
Hmm.
So
Wow, that's
there's two
insane.
two pretty distinct ones down here. There's one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. They're all over the place, just scattered.
Oh
So
my gosh, and they're
uh,
beautiful too.
there's a couple hiding within the tail here. There's a big one right here in the tail.
Hmm.
This is an image I don't like to zoom up too much on because it gets really nasty really quickly. So I'm gonna keep it backed out here.
Don't worry, we're not offended. It's all good. We understand. I mean, like some of those spiral galaxies are insane. That like kind of yellowy one, like off to the right, the bottom right
Mhm.
corner. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, that one, right, a little bit higher up
this
there. It looks like a barred
one,
spiral.
this one, yeah,
Yeah, that one. Look at that thing. That's nuts.
yep.
So beautiful, man. Well, and if you consider the possibility of life elsewhere, it makes me want to ask the question: it's not just how many galaxies are in here, but how many potential life supporting planets are in this image. Like, I don't
It's hard to
even,
put a number on it. Yeah.
yeah, it's insane. Well, that's cool. I mean, I've never seen this image myself, and hearing your story about it certainly creates intrigue within me, and I'm sure like within you as you continue to learn more about it. But
Yeah, yep. Yeah, I'm always looking for things that I haven't shot before. Things that I haven't seen before, honestly. Like you can scroll all through, everyone's photographs on Astrobin and whatnot and see all the same big name targets, see all the same stuff and you've seen it 1,000 times and like I'll be scrolling real fast and then something will just catch my eye. I'm like, "Whoa, I've never seen that before. Where is that? Is that accessible to me?"
right, right, yeah.
So,
Which hemisphere is that in?
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Well, as long as it's in the northern hemisphere, I'm going for it.
Well, Joe thinks that you've already rendered James Webb outdated. So,
No, never.
oh man, cool. Yeah, dude.
Oh, so this is the same target before I collected the hydrogen. So
Oh yeah.
on and off. It's like you can see the red hydrogen and the gas in the background just turn on like a light bulb there.
Totally. That is sweet.
I almost kind of like this one without the hydrogen better. So I've grown to like contrast. Some years ago I would extract all of the nebulosity out of an image. Like sometimes the entire photograph would just be so filled with nebulosity, and I would bring all of it out. I want to see every bit of dust in there. But I learned that, if you do that, then you got no darkness. And I learned, things can't shine. A light can't shine without darkness. You need to have some
Sure.
kind of contrast. So when you start, adding more stuff to it like this, it becomes less contrasty. So I'm kind of more drawn to these darker backgrounds, and so it pops a little more. And I don't know. I don't want to say, but I almost kind of like this one better. I'm not sure.
It's okay. You're allowed to pick favorites. It's your own work, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that though. Like there's preference to the appeal of a certain image, and I think like I
Yeah.
can respect the way that you've described it.
And your preferences as an astrophotographer, they do change. Your preferences change. Your standards change. Everything changes as you learn more. So
Mm-hmm.
this is the same image from before that I have on my background here. These are the those nebulae that are in other galaxies. So like the heart and the soul, and then Pac-Man, the North America, pillars of creation. This is what all of these things are here. Those are all the same things.
Right. That's so
Down
cool.
here, and that's a big one there. And then there's a lot in the core here too. If you look in the core, there's a lot of gas surrounding the core there as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's so neat that you can define the core in another galaxy so sharply, especially when we are not able to image our own core in the same way. We can see part of it, but like to get
Yeah,
above it,
I mean these I'm gonna call these objects with, I'm gonna say, high dynamic ranges, when they have such a difference between brightness and darkness. Um, Things like M42 and Andromeda, they have these bright cores, but they also have these very faint outer edges. So
right.
you want to bring out the faint stuff out on the edge without blowing out the core, and that's extremely hard to do. So with galaxies, special treatment is needed for the core, and M42 and such. Anything with a bright center to it.
Right. Well, you certainly nailed it. My gosh.
Thanks. You even got a little bit of detail happening in M110 over here. Some
Yes.
little dust or something.
Yeah, right. And there's two other neighboring galaxies, small ones. They're in the process of colliding with Andromeda? Is that correct?
I don't know if they're in the process of colliding with it, but they are companion galaxies, just like the Milky Way has the large and small Magellanic Clouds. So
Right. And
those
those
are
are only visible in the southern hemisphere, correct?
right, correct,
Yeah.
correct, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think those are what those are. I mean, they are at least orbiting Andromeda. I don't know if they're going to collide with it or not.
Okay.
Maybe at some point eventually, a long time from now, maybe.
Yeah, or they'll just get flung like way off into
Yeah,
nothing.
right. It might just send it on a trajectory there, no return trajectory.
Yeah. I know this is definitely a topic I want to get into in a little bit, but you're also a nerd in other areas like I am, and you enjoy gaming. You would call yourself a gamer, right?
I don't tend to call myself a gamer because
Okay.
I know people that do game, and I'm nothing like that. Like
Yeah.
those gamers out there, they are gamers. That is their life. That is their astrophotography.
Yeah.
Me, I come home and I'll play like one game or two games. I have like 2 or 3 games that I'll return to here and there, maybe a few times a week or a few times a month. I don't know that I could call myself a gamer.
Yeah, I think that qualifies. I think if you're interested in playing a game, you qualify. You don't have to be esport
Uh,
level MLG pro, but anyway,
Yeah, but I don't think someone who can pluck a guitar string can call themselves a guitarist.
fair enough. Fair enough. Well, the reason I bring it up, and maybe this is a swing and a miss moment here, but did you ever play the game Mass Effect Andromeda?
I did not. I've seen other people play it before, but not too much. No.
Okay. Well, for those of you watching, there is a game in this sci-fi series, Mass Effect. It was kind of like a spin-off game where you're in a futuristic existence of the Milky Way, and a couple hundred years down the line with advanced technology, and this group of people goes into a giant ship, goes into cryosleep, and they're traveling faster than light for 600 years to get to Andromeda, the first people from the Milky Way to get to the Andromeda galaxy. I loved the game. It was so much fun. And very few games have challenged my psyche than the Mass Effect games. And certainly with Andromeda, ask myself, would I ever do that? Like get into a ship, go into cryosleep, travel 600 years or whatever the number is to get to this particular galaxy that we're looking at here that Elliot has imaged, and wake up knowing that everything you know and loved is gone. Like you can't phone home. Sorry, ET. But like I always loved that idea, and I to one point after finishing that game, I was like, I think I would do it. I think I would try that if it actually exists. I would at least consider it. So I pegged the question here: would you travel to Andromeda knowing like everyone you know and loved and existed would be 600 years old and long gone?
Well, that would consider, yeah. I mean that would imply leaving, leaving your family then, right? So
Well, they could come with.
they can come with. Oh,
Yeah, sure.
well,
Not you alone. The whole colony were the people.
if you were able to like somehow preserve your age.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. You wouldn't wake up older.
I mean, if I could take everybody I knew and loved with me, my family, friends, and everything like that, and pretty much no one looks any different by the time you get there, then I mean, cryo sleep, it probably doesn't really feel like a lot of time has passed. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, like when you're sleeping 8 hours throughout the night, it doesn't feel like 8 hours, right? It just like
Sure.
you're only on the bookends of it, right? You don't really experience, the 8 hours between it, right? A dream kind of just feels like a few minutes, and
Right.
before you know it, you're waking up, right? So
Yeah. Well, then you get the opportunity to explore an entire galaxy yourself, right? Like with the people that are with you, at least. Like
right.
that'd be
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, that'd be fun. It'd be
Think
interesting.
think of getting up close shots of all the nebulae within Andromeda that you can't get to now. The potential,
That's
man.
that's what I want. I mean, like that's something that we will never be able to have realistically is a bird's eye view of our own galaxy. And I think it'd
Mhm.
be really cool if we had a galaxy even closer than Andromeda, something that took up a quarter or a third of our sky, that big,
Right. Right.
and you were looking down on it with a bird's eye view, seeing the whole disk. That would be, I could not imagine that view.
Right.
That would be, I don't know. I think that's one of the coolest things to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'm already my brain is like, how can we make that work? How can we make this happen? And not that
Nope.
that's ever going to happen in our lifetime, but
Nope.
wormholes might be a thing.
Theoretically.
Right, right. Oh my gosh. Well, anyway, sorry to derail us there. I mean, on the topic of Andromeda, I felt like it was worth going down that road. But carry on if you want to talk more about this one, or move on.
I don't have much more to say about this one. We'll move on. Oh, this is an old one. This is NGC 7822, otherwise known as the question mark nebula, or
Hmm.
I think it kind of looks like a Christmas tree, but there's already a Christmas tree nebula or
Yeah.
cluster.
Yep.
This is an older shot, so it's got a little bit of a different look to it than most of my other ones. It's not as contrasty and punchy. But yeah, I kind of like it. But
Yeah.
yeah, this is going to be one of those things like in here. This is another one of these little guys. That's what we're seeing, but
Hmm.
we're seeing it within our own galaxy instead of from a different galaxy.
So the definition of the dot and the question mark, like, is that a separate like planetary nebula or something that would have caused that perfectly round shape? Do you have any idea?
I have no idea. I really don't. I don't think it's a planetary nebula, but I could be wrong. I feel like planetary nebulae typically are more than just one wavelength. Usually, I mean, planetary nebulae they're made of the outer shells of a star, and that is typically the same wavelengths we see from emission nebulae. So you're going to usually see it in hydrogen and oxygen and sulfur. Um, but I just see it in hydrogen here. You can see where the hydrogen and oxygen are kind of overlapping is where it's whiter here in the center. So there is oxygen in here, but it looks white because when you combine the two together, you're not going to see one color or another color. You're going to see the combined, which is white.
Right.
But yeah, I don't really see any oxygen up here. So I don't know. I didn't really do any research on this. And I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't even know if it's related to this nebula down here.
Sure. Right. Like the distance could be like completely off plane, right?
Yeah, could be. I don't know. I don't really do a whole lot of research into the things that I'm shooting, like
Mhm.
the distance and what kind of nebula in particular is this? What is there a white dwarf in the center? I don't really look into the details. I just kind of shoot it.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
This is the North America Nebula and the Pelican Nebula. This is kind of an
mm,
older one. By the way, these are all mostly done with the small 135 millimeter lens.
okay.
I did a lot with that lens. Trying to move on to the Newtonian telescope now, but
Mhm.
this was done in HAGO. That's hydrogen alpha in the red, green in the green, and oxygen in the blue. So it's a mix of both broadband and narrowband, which is what gives it that kind of pinkish purpley color.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, it looks to a degree three-dimensional because of the depth that it has and the different shades and um, color differences, like going from the orange to the pink to the black.
Hmm. Yeah, that was actually part of a larger four-panel mosaic that I did. So I wanted to do a larger mosaic on the Cygnus region. So this was just the first panel. Do I have the second one here? I guess we'll see that one later. It's in there somewhere. This is the Pleiades in the surrounding molecular dust cloud in Taurus. Um,
Cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
so my real target for this was not the Pleiades. What I wanted to get was this dust to come out, especially the dust where it starts reflecting the blue light up here in the
Mm,
from the Pleiades themselves are reflecting light onto this dust here, and you can kind of see it
right.
bluish there, and I really wanted that. And then we got the little baby eagle nebula over here. It looks like a
Oh yeah, for sure.
upside down baby eagle head.
Yeah. That's so cool, dude. I love that you're able to capture the reflection, the reflected light, like the bounced light, and the fact that that's possible is just absolutely insane.
Yeah. Tan, I do not know. I don't remember how much integration time this was in. Typically, for like a single night, I will do 10 exposures of each filter. So this is going to be LRGB. It's 4 filters, 10 exposures each with probably about a 3-minute exposure time. So I don't know. Do the math on that. I don't remember.
I just want to do a shout out here. Hey, what's up, Nathan? Did I miss one of your comments earlier? I'm trying to figure this out here, but I love you too, bro. Carry on.
Yeah, Tan, I don't know, Tan, were you? I don't even know if you were referring to this picture. It could have been the previous one. I'm not sure. This is SH2-126. So we like to call this like the Gecko Nebula, but I'm pretty sure the Gecko is more so referring to the whitish dust up here.
Mm. Does this nebula
Um,
help you save 15% or more on your car insurance?
yes, it
Is
does.
that
For sure.
Sorry, I bet that joke hasn't been made before.
Yeah. So the Sharpless catalog, SH2 Sharpless 2, that is going to be mostly emission nebulae. So the Sharpless 2-126 is definitely going to be referring to the red hydrogen that you see here, and the Gecko Nebula is going to be this whitish dust that you see sitting on top of it. Um, I always kind of thought it looked like like the letter R or something.
Mm.
I kind of just see like the Robin logo or something like that from
Oh
Batman.
yeah, yeah,
So it's a very unique shape to it for sure.
yeah. That's
But
really cool.
yeah, so usually when I'm photographing something, I'm usually photographing like this huge swath of sky, but I'm usually kind of focusing on a very specific part of it. And my focus for this one it's always usually going to be the fainter part of the fainter part of the image. So yes, I obviously wanted the red hydrogen, but I really wanted this faint I call it the dusty finger, this dusty finger that stretches down from the top. So that was the fainter part of it. So that's what I really wanted to bring out there.
Gotcha. That's so cool. Karen has a wonderful vision of what we're looking at here. Looks like a giant Elmo. Oh, that's perfect. I love it.
I gotta squint to see what she's seeing. I don't see it.
Yeah.
There's just something red. I could
Oh
just
my
take out
gosh.
my contacts and see what she's seeing.
Yeah. Right. Oh my gosh.
I'm not gonna take out my contacts.
Well, we talked about it last week about the phenomenon that humans have of like when they see a cloud, like you kind of have to detect a shape in it. Like that looks like an elephant, that looks like a dog. Like, and I can't remember who it was, but they looked it up. It's the phenomenon, and I'm trying to remember my learning here. Pareidolia, I think that's how you pronounce it. I think we're definitely experiencing a hardcore case of pareidolia right now, all of us.
I mean, everyone I show my pictures to, they all say, "Oh, it looks like this, it looks like that," and even the people that were naming these nebulae, saw something. The Eagle Nebula and the Dumbbell Nebula, the Heart Nebula. They all tend to reside what they were named after, but sometimes people are just seeing what they see, and maybe they don't necessarily know the name of it. So most of the time when people are telling me what they see in it, I most of the time I can't see what they're seeing.
Yeah, right.
Like, yeah, I'm sure it's there somewhere. Whatever you're seeing, I don't see it.
Right.
So some of the things I wonder about, like the Eagle Nebula, a lot of people can see the eagle. For some reason, I've never really been able to see the eagle. And I think like the pillars are supposed to be its talons somehow, but I could never really see the eagle.
Yeah, gotcha.
But yeah, most of them are pretty. The Wizard Nebula, that's a pretty good one. It actually looks like a wizard.
For sure. Yeah, California, the North America.
California is really, really hard not to see.
Yeah, right.
In the North America, that's pretty obvious one, I think. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think that this red hydrogen here. I don't think it has a common name like a nickname like that. So that's just Sharpless 2-126.
Yeah, yeah, right. Good enough.
Right, good enough.
Blue Eye, was it you? I think it was you who helped me find pareidolia last week. Thank you. Just giving credit where credit's due.
Yeah. Oh, this is very different for me. This I would probably still consider this an astrophoto. This is a pinhole camera shot.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So I made this out of a soda can and some light sensitive paper. And this is my longest exposure I've ever taken. This is a 6-month exposure.
What?
From my backyard. This is my house.
Okay.
And these streaks going across the sky are the sun's path going across the sky every single day for 6 months straight. So the tallest arc you see up here, this is the summer solstice, June 21st, and the lowest arc down here is going to be the winter solstice, December 21st, and everything in between. Sometimes you see it just kind of disappears. Those are going to be the cloudy days. You can see my telescope under the cover right here. I think one of my favorite parts about this photograph, though, is the tree. You can see when the leaves fell off.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can see foliage and the leaves falling off that time of year, whatever that is, September, October, or something. You can see happen right around here because this is where you start seeing the sun through the tree here. You don't see the leaves anymore.
Yeah, totally. Oh my gosh.
So that's one of my favorite parts about that photo.
I've heard of pinhole cameras for viewing eclipses. I've never heard of them be used for, year-round LDEs. Yep. Like this is
yeah. I'm part of a Facebook group on Facebook. Yeah, so it's called solargraphy. Solargraphy. It's kind of a pain in the butt to say. But yeah, so it's solar graphs is what they call them. And they all do the same thing. They're all pointing pinhole cameras at the sun because no one's going to point a DSLR. You can't do that. You can't do that with digital cameras. You cannot take a 6-month exposure with a DSLR. It's just not, your camera's going to die before it can do that.
Right.
So that's why we use pinhole cameras in film. not film, light sensitive paper.
Yeah.
So I guess the idea behind the can is that because it's cylindrical, it's got a curved back. So you kind of wrap the paper around the inside of it, and you leave. So it wraps around the back, and as it comes to the front, you leave a little gap in the front there, so for the pinhole, so the light can come through. And
Right.
so that's why you're able to get almost a 180-degree view here from horizon to horizon.
Yeah.
You start to lose a little bit of light up here at the top here, because that's when the image is flipped upside down. It's inverted. So
Yeah.
that's when the light comes through the top, that comes through the hole and tries to reach the bottom of the can, but it's just starting to fade by that point.
Sure.
So yeah, you kind of got to get creative if you want to pull that out a little more with your pinhole camera design. Some people are 3D printing them now to get better designs to incorporate that a little easier.
Oh, cool. Okay. Dude, I went to school on this. This is nuts. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to do. You really just got to insulate it really well. So I have this Gorilla tape, this really thick black tape,
Mhm.
and several layers of that. And obviously, I got to get the film in there, so I got to cut the top of the can off, shove the film in there, and then I kind of like use a mix of cardboard with tape to kind of make my own cap, and I put the cap on it, and I tape around that several times with this really thick tape and insulate it. And the only thing you expose is that pinhole camera, the pinhole.
Right.
So you leave like a little flap of tape over it, like an aperture or a shutter rather, and until you're ready to start exposing, then you take it off and just let it go.
Mm.
But if you don't, you don't want it to move, so you got to
Right.
mount it to something rigid and sturdy. So this is mounted to the one of the posts on my back fence.
Dude, there would be no chance of me getting this done in my yard. I have way too many squirrels, and dude, those things would impede all the progress.
Yeah, and you got to be careful where you put them too, because a lot of people like putting them out in public areas, but they try to make them obscure so people don't notice them, because they don't want people tampering with them. But if
Sure.
they're found, then either people are going to tamper with them, or people are going to start reporting it because it doesn't look friendly. If you're
Yeah,
wrapping
right.
this cylinder with black tape and it looks like something that's could
It's like an
anyway.
IED just like chilling in the
Exactly. Yeah.
park. You know?
Yeah. So it raises a lot of questions. So
Yeah.
it's better to do that on your private property if you can.
Bamboozled by squirrels. There, exactly.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So I use zip ties to zip tie it to the fence post, but I do it pretty sturdy. You don't want to put the zip tie right in the middle, because it can collapses, it crushes it pretty easily. So you want to put it around the top and the bottom, where it starts to form the cap in the bottom of the can. That's where it's going to be most rigid. So so that's going to be the strongest point for the zip ties. So and yeah, it didn't really move a whole lot. I mean, it looks a little blurry, but I mean, that's going to happen over 6 months. It's hard to get a sharp, crisp image over 6 months.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's made me think about. I need to dust off the. I guess now is the exact time to start at the beginning of the year. But I've always wanted to tackle an analemma image, which
Yes. And I've seen people do analemma images with pinhole cameras, doing it the exact same way. The only trick is you have to expose it and close it. If you want a picture of the sun, not the streak, not the path of the sun, you want just the sun. So you
right.
expose it for a minute or two or whatever, and close it up again. And so if you're trying to open and close a shutter over 6 months at the same time of day every single day, I mean, that's asking a lot of you.
Yeah, right, for sure.
You can't always be there, and you might, it's just it's too much. It's So what I've seen people do is they'll take their pinhole cameras and they'll 3D print some kind of mechanism, like a shield, and it'll be on like a servo motor or something like that. So the same time, and they'll hook it up to an Arduino board. So at the same
Oh,
time
yeah.
every day, this servo motor will turn this shield out of the way and expose it and shut it again.
Oh, that's genius.
So so it's kind of like automated.
That's the perfect use of people getting creative with Arduinos or Raspberry Pis and all
Yeah.
that. Like that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Man.
you should be able to do it with an all sky camera too. I mean, that's the only digital way I can see of doing it, because as long as you, I mean, the trick is to have it in the same spot without moving it. So
Right.
you want a camera to be out there in the same spot, pointed in the same place for 6 months.
Yeah.
And the only way I can see doing that with a digital camera is by an all sky camera, which I'm actually in the process of building right now. So I have one going.
Sweet.
Um, yeah, you should be able to program that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we'll move on, I guess.
Yeah.
This is something I threw it in there in case I needed to talk about it at all, but I'll skip over that for now.
No worries.
This is a very large region in Cepheus, and it's one of my favorite images. It's got so much color going on in it. Also done with the small 135 millimeter lens. My focus here, obviously, what was this dusty pillar here in the center. I'm not going to get too close. It's ew. With the hydrogen, these hydrogen filaments running through it, and I don't think this hydrogen has a name either. Every time I've looked at, a lot of people do shoot this lately, over the past couple of years, and I've never seen a name for this red hydrogen filament here. So,
all right, chat. This is where we need you. What do you guys see in this image? Comment it in the chat and tell us what your creativity sees. Embrace your pareidolia, please.
There is one nebula in this image that does have a nickname that does kind of look like its nickname. So I'll leave that out there.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I see pitchfork. That's a good one, Ron. I don't know. Kind of at the bottom there made me think of like a wishbone.
Yeah. But then again, I've only ever seen this composition here. People are always focusing on this part. I've never seen someone kind of go down this way and look at, where this red filament is going. I've not seen the other side of this filament before, so I don't know what it looks like on the other end. It only looks like a wishbone right now because that's where the frame ends. So I don't really know what it looks like beyond that. Can't comment because I know. Yep, Tan got the shark nebula. Yep, that's at the top. So this looks like a shark here. This is his eye and his nose and his mouth, and he's got a dorsal fin somewhere up here and a little one down here in his body. So that's the shark nebula. But that's the only thing that I know that has a nickname in this photo here.
Yeah. What's up, Dan? Good to see you, Oliver Dodge, our resident musician in the house here. Good to see you, man. Thanks for coming in. And yes, I do agree. This would make some pretty sick album art for you.
There you go. Yeah, I love this photo. This is also one of those photos that I've reprocessed. I've reprocessed many times, and it's hard to get the same results. I probably won't be able to do it as well as this again.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I mean, until somebody says, "Hey, the hottest wavelength that just came out with a new filter, never done before," then you're like, "Well, I guess I'm going back."
I mean, like Bray, he took that next step and started doing a sky survey in oxygen. So if you want to be the next Bray and take that one step further, you better start working on that sulfur survey.
Oh yes, there you go.
Sulfur 2. That's the next one.
It does look like a stumbling stick figure, doesn't it?
That's funny.
That's pretty good.
I have heard this region. I don't think a specific object in here, but this region in general referred to as the Wolf's Cage before. And I thought that's what it was called, but I'm not really sure if that is what it's called or if that's just what I saw someone call it once. Like maybe that's just what they came up with. I don't know.
Yeah, interesting.
Umbilical cord.
Yeah,
I can see it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one in the middle there, like the like lighter colored one.
Yeah. I think this is this little reflection nebula here at the top where it looks a little blue. I believe that is VDB 152. I think it is.
No, it's definitely 53. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm definitely taking your word for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the VDB catalog is mainly all reflection nebulae like that. So it's going to be a catalog full of blue stuff and white stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
Did I put that in there twice? Same. Oh, am I just zoomed in? Maybe I'm just zoomed in.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
I guess I reached one bookend, so let me go back the other way.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, here we go.
All right, there, Joe.
Fallopian tube.
If
Here we
there were
go.
any rails for The Godfather, folks, we've lost it. there are no
Let's
rails left.
let's make it happen. It's gonna be the fallopian tube there.
Yeah.
I think we can make it stick.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So this is the double cluster in Cassiopeia, I believe
Oh,
it is. Is
dude,
it Cassiopeia or is it Perseus? Not
it,
Perseus. It is Cassiopeia.
it's the double cluster in Perseus. Mm-hmm.
It is Perseus.
Yep.
Okay.
This is
I-
my
it's kind of like right on the border between the two, so it's so yeah, so this is the double cluster. I love this. I love this target so much because like when you look at it through a telescope, like you're not seeing any of the red hydrogen in the back, but now a lot of people didn't even know it was there actually.
Mhm.
But when you're looking at it through a telescope, I love this description that I heard once a long time ago. People call it they compare it to looking at diamonds on black velvet. And I
Mhm.
think it is the coolest description because it's exactly what it looks like when you're looking at it through a telescope.
I have a soft spot for double cluster because when I first got my telescope in 2008, I spent a whole week just every single night outside. Had perfect weather. It was like August, and I remember I knew nothing. I knew almost nothing about the night sky. I literally was just like, let's look for stuff. I stumbled upon this with no guidance, just completely by accident. I did not know what I was looking at, and it blew my mind. I was so in love with this object, and I of course it was like, what the heck am I looking at?
Yeah.
I had to go look it up, figure it out. So this definitely has a soft spot for me. It's one of my favorite deep sky objects.
Yeah, and it is favorite of mine too. I think like I'm not really drawn to open star clusters too much, or really any star clusters, because honestly they just all look the same to me. And I feel like open clusters they all kind of look the same as other open clusters, and globular clusters, well, there's only those can only vary so much. They all look like big balls of stars.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, the difference here is that there's two of them that are kind of gravitationally engaging there, I think. And I think that it's just so cool to see the two next to each other. And on top of that, being laying on top of a background of hydrogen, I think is so cool.
Yeah, for sure. I've never seen it like this before. So this is a new rendition of one of my favorites. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. I wanna come back to this because I think my optics were slightly out of collimation when I shot this, but I think yeah, I want to do this one again and get some better stars in there.
Yeah, totally.
Here's that mosaic that I was talking about. There's a North American nebula up there, and the
Oh, yeah.
the other three panels that was missing.
Yeah, totally.
So if you think about the 135 millimeter lens, I don't know if many of you out there know it. It's a small portrait lens. It's meant to go in your DSLR, so it's pretty wide already. But you do a 4-panel mosaic, and you're talking about a massive part of the sky, huge part of the sky. And not many people know that you can even that your eyes are even capable of this field of view. They're not capable of seeing all this gas like this, but the field of view is something that you can relate to.
Mm,
Um, a lot of people see these kinds of field of views all the time. They just don't know what's hiding in the darkness there.
yeah.
So yeah, a lot going
Wow.
on here. We got the North America and the Pelican up here. I've seen a lot of people refer to as this, this little guy here in between the two as the Deadpool Nebula. It looks like Deadpool's face.
Dude, it does. That's awesome.
Yeah, I always look for Deadpool's face.
It's a little bit of 21st century culture immersed in ancient astronomy.
Yeah, exactly right. A lot of people aren't going to be showing this in this pinkish purpley form. So it usually is going to be red. That's what hydrogen alpha is. It's very red. So this will look more like Deadpool's face with that really deep red color.
Yeah, for sure.
And we got the other part of Cygnus over here. Mainly, we got the Butterfly Nebula here and Satyr. This is the star Satyr. The center point of Cygnus, the Swan constellation.
Yeah, okay.
And way down here, we got the Crescent Nebula, looking all purple, which is pretty cool. It was a cool color scheme here.
For sure. Well, and down under the bottom right too, there's all that reflected light, that pink coming out. Is that from that point from the nebula that's in there?
What here?
Yeah, so you kind of see some. Is that reflected light or is that ionization?
It's ionized. So this is
Okay.
pretty much all narrowband. So it's all going to be hydrogen and oxygen pretty much.
Okay.
There is sulfur here, but not in this photograph. I did not collect sulfur data. So this is going to be again. This is HAGO. So this is the hydrogen alpha data applied to the red, oxygen applied to the blue, and there is no narrowband for green. So that's when I just used the green filter for the green. So
Yeah.
that's you kind of the green filter is a filler to
Okay.
get that white balance, I guess.
Sure.
So yeah, it's anything red is hydrogen, anything blue is oxygen, except for the stars. Obviously, those are everything pretty much. But
Totally.
the combination of red and blue together are going to create pinkish purple. So
Okay. Yeah.
um, there's a propeller nebula there too. There we go.
Oh, nice. Oh yeah,
Looks like a
yeah. I see that.
propeller.
That's cool.
He's usually kind of buried and hidden, hard to find sometimes. So.
I kind of see that funny S that everyone drew in elementary school.
Oh
A
yeah,
little bit.
The Superman S that wasn't actually anywhere close to a Superman S.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but other than that, like I don't think any of this really has a name. This is all just kind of residual
Mhm.
gas floating around. The whole constellation is just filled with gas like this. So.
Well, I like what Blue Eye had to say. It does look like a dark angel with wings, like the silhouette. And you get the upper left wing, the North America, and then the upper right wing is that bit that you were just describing. I could see it. That's pretty cool.
Unless she was talking about the butterfly. I don't know.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. Well, I see the head. I wish I could show my cursor on the screen. Here I am over here mousing over. I'm like, oh, it's right here. Obviously, no one can see that. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, either way, I think I see what you're talking about. Well, and Joe, you've got a soft spot for Cygnus, don't you? That's in your Godfather branding. But dude, this one's cool. This is the kind of image that I feel like would be amazing printed on a wall, just like a one of those wall murals. Like
Yeah,
floor to
shockingly,
ceiling.
I don't have a whole lot of my own prints. Some people like Karen got prints of mine that I want. So I've not printed myself. She just got my print of the heart and the soul nebula, and I want that print so bad. I don't even have it. So
Yeah.
prints are just so expensive. It's just
Yeah,
eventually I'll get them all, but
totally.
let's see. It vaguely reminds me of the Eternity from the fourth Thor movie. I thought Thor, at least the first one, like the first time you see Asgard, I thought that was whoever was in charge of like the vision behind Asgard was just so cool. I
Mhm.
thought that was one of the coolest scenes ever. With the space and nebulosity in the background, just on top of the city. That was so cool.
Right. Well, there's it's certainly catered to the flat Earth theory. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it didn't do too well for the guys that fell off of it though.
No, absolutely not. Oh my gosh.
Okay, here we go. This is the Christmas tree. I love this.
Ooh, yes.
I like this photograph a lot. This is a different color mapping. This is Who, and that is hydrogen in the red and then oxygen in both the green and the blue. So it creates this very distinct red and blue color palette here. Yeah, so a lot of people just kind of see. Most people who photograph the Christmas tree are kind of zoomed up on it like this. But me shooting everything wide field as much as I can, I had no idea that there was all this nebulosity around it. This big horn going around the top too is just insane.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's a lot of stuff going on here, and then you got the cone nebula at the top too. It's kind of like, so the Christmas tree is this large triangular shape here. That is the Christmas tree, and the ornaments are the bright stars. But this kind of inverted triangle at the top that's the cone nebula there.
Gotcha. Dude, it just makes me wonder what causes the shapes of all these nebulas, these gas clouds. Obviously, it's probably like I'm assuming, not obviously, I don't know. I'm assuming it is like what's the word? Solar wind, like star
Mhm.
wind, like emissions from the stars. Like,
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
okay, nice, nailed it. Boom.
Yeah. So it's the same
My,
thing that's causing them to ionize. That's actually shaping them as well.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Another cool thing that in here that not a whole lot of people know about is there's a very very tiny nebula in here called Hubble's Variable Nebula.
Hmm.
And you wouldn't notice it unless you're looking for it, but I'll zoom into it for you. It's this little triangular, a lot of triangles in this picture. This little triangular thing right here. This is Hubble's Variable Nebula, and if you this nebula is so dynamic because there are stars here. This main star that's kind of blurred out with the nebula here
Hmm.
is sitting right on top of this gas here. And if you were to actually get hypothetically, if you had a scope that was, had enough magnification to kind of fill the frame with this entire nebula here and was able to see detail, you can actually take a time lapse of this over, the course of several months. Take it, one shot every week or so like that. You could actually animate it and see the the pulses moving through the gas. The gas is rippling from the shock waves coming from the star, and you can animate it and actually see it moving. It is
What?
so cool. It is so cool. I'll have to send it to you later.
Yeah, please do. I mean, given the scale and the distance of everything, that we can see, all the things we've been looking at, and like you can actually see movement here, right? Like that's what you're
You,
describing. That's
yeah,
nuts.
yeah. I mean, most things that we are looking at in the sky are not going to be moving in any way, shape, or form within our lifetime, not any way noticeable, at least. Like it is
Right.
moving, but over the course of our own lifetime, you're not gonna see it. It's not happening.
Hmm.
I was trying to find it on my phone. I know I have it somewhere, but there are very few select things out there that you can actually see movement in with your own lifetime. And okay, I found it here. I'm just gonna show it on my phone.
Okay, here, let me switch to the camera here. Or maybe I can, there we go. Wow.
That is so cool. I
That's
wish
insane.
I had the magnification to shoot that. I do not.
Yeah. I mean, how many more thousands of dollars is that?
Yeah, I don't know, a lot. I mean, considering how far zoomed in we are
Yeah.
on this picture here, this scale is ridiculous.
That's nothing short of remarkable that that's even trackable.
Yeah, yeah. So there are very few things that you can actually see moving, and this is one of those.
And to think, that 130 years ago, we're like, I say, Wilbur, what do you say about making a plane? Sure, Orville. And then here we are taking ripple images of nebulae.
They could not even comprehend it.
Vast change in just a short amount of time.
Yeah, yeah, it's unbelievable, and that throws a lot of skeptics off too. They'll use that as an explanation as to why everything is fake, why we're being lied to by NASA and everything, because how come the stars aren't moving? How come they're in the same position every night? 'Cause, like they can't fathom the fact that it takes so long for these things to make any kind of noticeable movement. It's just not going to happen within your lifetime. That's one of them. That's one of those objects that you can see movement in. So.
Right. Again, you're
This
taking me to school.
this is the same target here in a different color mapping. This is SHO, and one of the very few SHO images that I have. I prefer to do true color. This is true color red. Hydrogen is red. Oxygen is blue. So this is closer to true color. I think SHO, this is also known as the Hubble palette. I think it looks incredible, but I like being able to tell people that, my images are true color. So that's
Yeah,
why I do not have too many of these guys floating around. But
you're right. It does. It looks very much like a Hubble image, like the Pillars of Creation kind of use that same.
right, and they only do that with emission nebula. I mean, Hubble shoots all kinds of stuff, but you're not going to see Hubble shooting, a broadband target like a galaxy. You're not going to see them applying that false color is what they call it, Hubble palette to something like a galaxy. They're going to apply it to emission nebulae, and which is what we're seeing here. Those emission nebulae are radiating in three very distinct wavelengths of light. Mostly, there's more than that, but
Right.
sulfur, hydrogen, and oxygen mostly. So that's where we get the show color palette. So I'm going to explain the difference, why we call it the Hubble palette and why it's false color. Is hydrogen. I'm going to actually bring up that other image that I had here before. I think it was, here we go. Hydrogen, if you can see this, hydrogen is located in the red part of the spectrum. You can see this broader pale red curve represents red, the red filter, red wavelength of light. Then you got your green wavelength, and then your blue red wavelength. So hydrogen sits within the red channel. Fine, you take your hydrogen and you apply it to the red. Oxygen kind of sits between the green and the blue. It's a lot of people like to throw it in the blue channel. Fine, there's your blue. But what do you do with green? There's not really anything that sits like smack in the middle of the green. So what we do here is we take sulfur, since it's a deeper red, we put sulfur in the red channel instead, and then we'll take hydrogen and we'll throw that into the green.
Oh.
And that's where we get our false color from. So that's what gives it that distinct blues and golds kind of look.
Yeah. Oh
so
my gosh, man.
you're only really gonna see that with emission nebulae.
Oh man. I am like, my mind is melting in the best way, dude. That helps me so much. Explain what I feel like I've been looking at, pretty much my whole life.
Right. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and like you start to get a feel for emission nebulae when you see them, when you're scrolling through people's photos on Astrobin and stuff. You start seeing those golds and blues flying by. You can like instantly, that's Hubble palette. So
Right.
you start being pretty familiar with it.
Totally.
This is a large area in Cepheus, another large area in Cepheus, other than compared to the other one, nearby, but same constellation.
Sure.
Lots of things happening in here. We got the Cave Nebula up at the top right here. We got I don't remember what kind of open cluster this is over here. And then we got the Bubble Nebula hiding down in here, and the Lobster Claw Nebula here, or just a Lobster Nebula, I think.
Okay. Got to call this the Zoidberg Nebula for all the Futurama fans out there.
I think there is another Lobster Nebula. That's the thing. I like calling it the Lobster Claw because it is I think it is referring to it like a claw from the lobster. But there is another nebula out there that's the Lobster Nebula that actually looks like a full lobster.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I'm just going to call it the Lobster Claw. And then down in the right-hand corner, we got at least a portion of the Wizard Nebula. So he's kind of getting cut out of frame there.
Take that, Wizard.
Yeah. I wanted to get him in, but I just felt like the framing would have been off.
Sure.
And this is the same target again. This is one of my SHO false color images. So this is it in true color here for the most part. So same thing.
Wow, that's really cool. Amazing.
Yeah, I prefer the true color better.
Yeah.
Here is the Boogeyman. I wanted to collect more time on him. I didn't think he had enough integration time. He was a lot fainter than I was anticipating him being.
Okay.
So I'll come back to that guy.
That's so cool. So it's like Boogeyman kind of doing like this.
So he's got like short little arms like this, and he's got his big belly like this, and so this is his eye, one of his eyes up here, his face, and he's got a little arm here and a little arm here, and his big belly here.
See, I looked at it totally differently.
He kind of looks like he's laying back a little bit,
Okay. Yeah. No, I that's so funny. We both saw different things.
If you've ever seen The Nightmare Before Christmas, it looks like Oogie Boogie.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I know that makes sense. That's helpful.
Yeah, I don't know how you were seeing it.
I mean, like I kind of saw the center column, like the darker part, as like the head, and then like the parts on the left and the right is like literally like going like this. So like where your cursor is like the head.
Oh,
that's like the body.
yeah, I think I see. And this is one of his hands or something.
Yeah,
like
kind of looking like this, and then
this is another hand.
is like another claw looking thing.
I do see
don't know.
it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I see it.
Sweet
Maybe like
success.
maybe like a Slender Man with a really big Hulk hands.
Yeah. Yep, that's right.
Okay, so these are just some telescope shots, I guess.
Mhm.
This is recently from my all sky camera. This is just like my first test shot, so I am in the process of building one down here. And this was just the first test shot. So, by the way,
Cool.
the Boogeyman Nebula sits right in here.
Oh, okay. So it's in Orion?
It's right in Orion. Yeah, it's right next to Bernard's Loop. So
Mm,
very close to the Horsehead Nebula and M78.
sweet. Okay.
This is the big guy here.
Ooh, yes. The goods.
Yeah, yeah, that's my baby. And you can see on
Cool.
the back here, my little 135 millimeter lens that I shot most of those with is sitting right here, piggybacking on the back there. So,
Mm,
so at any point, I can just take the camera off the front of my big telescope and throw it on the back of the lens here.
gotcha. Dude, that's
Front.
intense, man.
Yeah, I put a lot of work into it. This is actually this is a budget Newtonian telescope. I got this like 9 years ago, but they don't come perfect. The optics in it are much like, if you consider the optics the heart of the heart of the telescope, they are much more capable, just as the raw, the shape of the mirror. They're much more capable than how they come. So
Mm,
I wanted to do my best to, before I blow God knows how much on another telescope, I wanted to get as much out of this telescope as I possibly could.
yeah.
So the past year I've been working on this telescope and modifying it, adding parts to it, 3D printing parts to it, collimating it, doing everything I can to get this telescope to work at its full potential. So
Mhm.
that's what I've been doing, and it's going pretty well. It's been a nightmare. It's been a nightmare. It really has.
Oh, man.
But yeah, we're getting somewhere with it. So I'm getting satisfied with it.
Yeah, dude. Well done on being resourceful. I agree, Dazzle. The cable management, you got the cable wraps and everything, man.
Yeah, I went crazy with the cable management on this one. So this mount here actually has through the mount cabling. So the cables kind of come up in here,
Yeah.
and they go inside the mount and travel up the different axes, and they come out the back. I have an ankle weight on the back right here for a counter as a counterweight, but they actually have ports on the back of the saddle here, so the cables come out of here, and then they
Hmm,
come up here, and then they route throughout all the different devices up here.
gotcha.
But other than that, I have these pegboards down here, and I got a friend of mine to design some rings. Let me see. So these rings here that are kind of hugging the pier. So
Hmm. Oh, yeah.
nobody makes those. So a buddy of mine designed them for me, and then I 3D printed them out on my printer, and mounted these pegboards to them, so they hold everything.
Oh,
And
my
I
gosh.
lined the inside with silicone, this red silicone I got from Michaels, so it doesn't scratch up the pier, and helps create some friction, and they work really well. I love them. So
Yeah.
and it's nice because you could just hide all the cables, all the messy cable behind the pegboards too.
Right.
And these are some
Oh, my gosh.
modifications that I've done. This is a spider that I upgraded here. The spider vanes are much more durable and strong. They won't bend out of shape. This is CNC milled, so they're not going to bend and twist like they would be like with the ones that come with the telescope.
Yeah.
And they've also flocked the inside of the tube. That's what you see, this kind of felty material here. They just come with sticky backs, and you can kind of line the inside of the telescope with them. And some of the other parts, like these panels in here, they weren't even painted black. They were like silver or kind of like a gray or something like that. And reflections become much more noticeable when you're flocking the inside of your tube and cutting down on reflections, and other reflections start becoming much more apparent.
Hmm.
So I started painting those flat matte black and the focuser tube and everything to just kind of cut down on reflections. So
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say. So the purpose of the flocking is cut down reflections. Do you see any like any of that material? Does it ever flake off and like land on your mirrors?
no,
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 that's
no.
good. Okay.
Yeah, it's yeah. I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be messy. It's really not though. It's it's pretty good. It's done well so far.
Okay, sweet. That's a incredible solution. I mean, I mean, there's more than one way that you've gone above and beyond with this.
I'm doing
solve issues.
everything I possibly can. Everything I can. I mean, there's gonna come a point where I put so much work into this telescope that it's not even gonna be considered the same telescope anymore.
No, well, I would say
I
you've
mean,
already hit that point.
maybe I don't know. It's still got the same mirrors. The two mirrors, the primary and secondary mirror, are the same. The tube, the OTA, that's the same,
Mhm.
and the focuser is the same. So those are three major upgrades that would be extremely expensive to upgrade. I think if I upgraded either the tube or the mirrors, it would not be the same telescope anymore.
Sure.
But
You,
we're getting close.
this is like the equivalent of like Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, but for telescopes.
Right. Like everybody's got these home built cars and modified cars and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got like the big spoiler and the hood scoops and all the crazy
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. It's fun though because it's your own. Like that. I'm not big on those like smart telescopes because it's like, I mean, they come as they are and that's how they are, and you're not going to be able to do anything else to it, and that's, is meant to do one thing. This is what you can expect from it, and that's about it. But if you do something like this, is everything is bought with a purpose. I chose a specific scope to match with a specific camera. I'm choosing this specific part and that specific part to work together for one specific purpose. And so it's just kind of your own Frankenstein, or Frankenstein's monster is what it
Right.
is.
Yeah, dude.
So,
Well, you've done incredible work with it. Like for
thanks.
real. That is very cool.
Thanks.
I may not be showing very well, but my jaw is on the floor. You just it's somewhere down there. I can't find it.
Collimation was also a big part of it, and collimation it's not something you can buy. There are tools that you can buy to help you with collimation. But for those of you who don't know, collimation is the alignment or the squareness of the mirror. So, or the optics in general. So the primary mirror has to be squared off with the secondary mirror, has to be squared off with your camera sensor and your coma corrector and field flattener. Everything's got to be squared off with each other, nothing tilted relative to one another, because that's how you get misshapen stars and all kinds of nasty artifacts and whatnot. Collimation has been a big part and a big headache from 2023. It's made me want to rip my hair out a lot. So the thing about collimation, especially with a Newtonian, is that the primary mirror is really what threw me off, because you think about, you don't want anything, you want to square everything off and get them aligned, and then you don't want them to move, right? So you don't want them to move, you got to find a way to hold it.
Yeah.
And your initial thought might be to hold it as steady as you can. It's rock solid, but you start putting any kind of pressure on the primary, and now you're starting to warp it, and it misshapens your stars again. So I started to learn this very, very, very fine balance between holding the mirror in place enough so it's not moving, but not so much that it's putting any kind of pressure on the mirror. So it's barely has to be touching the mirror at all. You're supposed to be able to, like the mirror clips that hold the primary mirror in, you're supposed to be able to slide a little piece of paper underneath those clips and be able to move it freely. But not so free that it's gonna, misalign.
Right.
So
yeah.
It's ruined a lot of nights for me.
It takes a delicate and very intentional touch.
Right.
Man. Crazy. Sweet, dude. Well, do you have any more pictures in the folder, or is that the last one there?
I think that was the there's a couple more there, just some artistic shots underneath the stars. This was my wide field lens here. This is before I got my Newtonian out and running again. So this is that small same 135 millimeter lens on the AVX. This is a smaller mount. This is what I was shooting most of those photos that I showed you with. This is the rig for that.
Wow. Okay. Way more elaborate than what my brain saw.
I mean, at the heart of it, it is still just, I mean, it looks intimidating, but it is still a lens and a camera.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. Those things are just there to help assist me with things, getting better tracking and, being able to focus automatically. But I mean, the heart of it is still just a camera and a lens.
Sure. Very, very cool.
Now I'm done.
All right, no worries. Cool. Well, thank you so much for putting all that together and showcasing this epic archive that you've assembled. It is beyond impressive, man. You should be very proud.
Thank you. I'm proud of
Well,
most of it.
yeah. Well, and I mean, just think about how much more life you have to explore the night sky and to see your own personal archive of things just grow and to go back and revisit stuff to improve it.
Yeah.
I mean, the potential is endless and makes you wish you had some more time in life.
Yeah, I know it's gonna. I mean, it makes me wonder if I'm ever going to be able to revisit any of my old targets that I shot, just because it's never ending. You know,
Right.
especially with all the new stuff they're finding these days.
Yeah, for real. Oh my gosh. Well, you never know. There's opportunities galore. Cool. Well, let's shift gears here, and I want to do something that I've been experimenting with. I did talk to you about it, so you're ready. Want to go into
Not
the deep,
really.
you're not ready for the deep space? Let's go. We've been in deep space all night. Let's
right.
shift. You are now the target, though. That's the difference.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so we're gonna go into a little bit more of a focus on you, and maybe shift slightly away from the astro side of things, because I think there's something to the value of the person behind the craft. So I'm going to start off with the question that I did kind of ask you earlier. So this is your warm up, and I have been asking this since 10, and I think it's just it's a really fun question. If you had 5 minutes to live, and you can only choose one song to listen to before you died, what would that song be?
I was thinking about that question for the past like 24 hours, and I really tried. I could not think of one. I'd say maybe just something John Mayer, maybe.
Okay.
Gravity. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
right.
Fitting. It's fitting, right? I don't know.
Totally. Yeah. You gotta stay on theme.
I tend to play him a lot on my live streams. It's just nice and relaxing.
Yeah, totally. That's a good choice. It's a very good choice. I just recently learned that John Mayer actually played guitar for the Halo 2 soundtrack 20 years ago.
Wow.
I did not know that. And
neither did I.
Yeah, now we have some new stuff to go back and re-listen to. Let's talk about space in general here. If you had the opportunity to travel to space, would you take it?
It depends on the mission.
Well, let's go down the list. Would you go
if it was like, I don't know, if it was like those new commercial flights that they're doing, maybe a full orbital flight, because like those suborbital things, it's not really, I don't know, you're not really in orbit, you're just going up and then falling back down.
Right.
Yeah, I think maybe a trip to the International Space Station. I think
yeah, dude.
Maybe a trip like Artemis 2 is going to be sending astronauts around the moon and coming back with them. I think that'd be cool to see the moon from above. I don't know that I'd go down to the moon, though. I don't know. I think that's where I draw the line. I don't want to go down to the surface of any other bodies out there.
Yeah, that's fair. I feel you there, because I mean it's a whole new level of risk, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's much more likely a one-way trip.
Right. Yeah, but the payoff being getting to see different landscape around you and seeing the blue marble, like that's got to be insane. But I totally get it though. Like I think kind of always be moving maybe is like the mantra.
Right. Yeah, I think it'd be cool to especially see Earth. I think because like we see the moon from Earth, that the moon's only a quarter of the size of the Earth, so it takes up a certain certain size in our sky. But if you swap the tables and you're on the moon looking up at Earth, you're looking at something that's 4 times larger. So that's going to look a lot bigger. Earth is going to look a lot bigger than the moon does to us. So it would look a lot bigger in the sky if you were on the moon. I think
right.
It'd be hard to comprehend like just how large it would look in the sky.
Yeah. I've tried that mental exercise myself when I've been outside looking at a full moon before, and just be like, what if that was 4 times bigger? What would that feel like? And
yeah, I mean, like you can easily calculate it. I just don't know how many, arc seconds or how many degrees of the sky it takes up. Like, does the moon take up like a degree or so, something like that?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe 1 degree or half a degree or something like that. So you can calculate it, but
right.
Never tried it
for sure.
Well, I did actually do one mental exercise. I'm gonna tease your brain with this for a little bit. So James Webb, you know where James Webb is?
Yeah, the Lagrange point.
Yes.
Mhm.
So I did this. I was really curious to see, like, obviously you're not going to be able to see the telescope here from Earth. It's too far away, it's too tiny. You're not going to be able to see it. But Lagrange too is a balance point. It's kind of between, it's on this balancing point in terms of orbit or gravity with the Earth and the Sun. So it's just kind of sitting out there, but it does kind of as it orbits around Earth, it does kind of do these loops like this. It has to go kind of like in this little circle, do
Right.
these little epicircles as it's going around the Earth, as it's balancing on that point. And I was wondering, how big would those circles look if you could
Mm.
see that circle in the sky? How big would it look
Yeah.
from our perspective? Because
Mhm.
considering how far away L2 is, how big are those circles that it's
Right.
making? And I did that. I tried to. I suck at math. I really do. So I could be wrong, but I tried to do the calculations out one time, and I think, averaging, the its closest point to its furthest point and taking the average to try to get the best answer. I think I came out to somewhere around like 40 degrees.
No way.
40
Wow.
something degrees. I mean, 0 degrees horizon, zenith is 90 degrees. You're
Mhm.
talking about almost halfway up in the sky. So a
Yep.
circle that big
Yeah.
is insane to think about, you know?
No
I,
kidding.
and I could be wrong about that. So someone's got to do the calculations and fact check me on that. I don't.
Right.
I tried looking it up. I couldn't really find any information about it.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, imagine if you could capture it too. If it was like actually the James Webb was actually tracing a line, like and you could see it, like left an ion trail or something. Like that would
Yeah,
be.
well, but I mean, like, I think I don't know how long it takes. I think it takes a pretty long time to actually make one of those circles too. So you
Oh, okay.
couldn't do it. I don't think you could do it in like a single exposure or anything like that. So
Right. Right. Interesting. Yeah. Dude, that's brilliant. That's a really smart thing to think about. Like,
yeah, I don't know. I like little teasers, little brain teasers like that.
yeah, yeah. Well, if you think of more, definitely ping them because I want to hear them. I think it'd be awesome. I bet there's
Try.
a million more out there. Well, so going back, you said you would enjoy going to the International Space Station, which only 250 miles away.
Hmm.
If it's straight above you, how long would
Right.
you want to stay there? How long of a visit?
Ooh, I don't know because I'd probably change my answer as soon as I got there.
Yeah.
It might be something that I don't know. I'm down here on the ground. I might say, "Oh, I want to stay up there for a week," but as soon as I get there, I might change my mind and say, "I want to get out of here."
Sure,
So,
sure.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, down here on the ground, yeah, I'd go up there for a week
Mhm. Yeah.
right now.
Right. Totally. Yeah, I think a week is a good amount. Enough time to acclimate and see the sights and then come back and not mess up your life too much, right?
Right, 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 right.
Yeah. Babysitter would start to get pretty expensive after that.
Yeah. What about you? Would you do for a week or longer?
Oh, I would do it longer for sure. I do get it though. Like what I was saying, like the balance though, like if I had to balance in like super reality, obviously like a week would make the most sense. But if I had like no limits, I would go for a long duration mission. I would want to experience the multi-month journey. So
I mean, like, I don't know that I could tolerate it. Like, I think the views would probably be completely worth it, but I think like my body probably would not agree with it. Like
yeah.
I I used to be a pilot back in the day. I was flying in
Mm,
high school and college, and I would always pull the plane up and we'd push it down into a dive, so you'd simulate zero gravity. But it's not zero gravity. You're just falling with your environment. You and the plane are
right.
falling at the same time, so everything in the cabin kind of just floats around. So it simulates zero G, and I do it all the time. But it was always kind of an uncomfortable feeling doing it. So it was something. Ugh, it just, I don't know. I don't know
Well,
if I could experience that for a week straight.
well, even the most prepared astronauts deal with sickness for several days. Not all of them, but some of them do. So, I think there's some acclimation period, and that's different for everybody. So, yeah,
It didn't feel like a sickness. It just felt like make me feel like I had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
That's, I don't and I don't know what it's like for everyone else, but that's how it felt for me.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I have yet to experience it. I've applied for a couple contests for parabolic flights, zero Gs, and I have yet to be lucky enough to win one, but one day that's on my bucket list to experience it.
Let's find a pilot buddy of yours and go up.
Right, totally. Yeah, I have one flight hour in my logbook. I did take one lesson,
Yeah.
and it just couldn't afford the rest of it at the time. But if I ever get the chance to, I'll take up your idea and
Yeah.
start doing my own
I
parabola.
was doing it a lot too until I stopped doing it because I realized that I'm flying a plane that has an engine that's gravity fed. So the
Oh,
fuel is up in the wings because it's a Cessna. So the fuel's up in the wings and it goes down through the struts and it goes if it uses the gravity to fall into the engine. So
sure.
so if you're pushing it down to a dive, it's not falling into the engine anymore. So,
Yeah. Oh my
uh,
gosh.
yeah, I never stalled the engine, but I didn't really want to do it for too long to find out.
Nope. Not a good thing. Oh my gosh. Um, okay. Yeah, great. So if you could choose somebody living or dead, or somebody that you know, or somebody you don't know, like who's somebody who's been a significant influence on you in life in general? And maybe if you have multiple people, feel free to go into multiple people. I know it can sometimes be hard to pick one, but who are some of the people who are influences, mentors, heroes, however you might want to describe them?
Wow. I don't know. My parents for sure. Yeah. Um, and I mean, like, especially even if we're just talking about like in the astronomy realm, I have a few people that kind of really helped push me in the direction that I'm in right now. Just like early on, like when I was first starting to get into it, like uh, some really big influences in my life. I mean, I don't know if I should name them or not because no one's gonna know who they are.
No, yeah, and that's okay. Like you don't have to
Yeah, I'm
get
not
too
gonna dox
specific.
them either.
No, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, protect your
um,
people.
uh, Man, yeah, I'm trying to think of like people that people would know.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Any like personalities and online that you follow closely who are like influences of yours, maybe?
Yeah. I think well, Bray Falls. I think he's a
Mhm.
pretty big influence in the people that he's been working with on and I'm trying to go outside the realm of just astronomy here, but I'm failing. Um, but yeah, those guys, Bray Falls, and the guys that have been discovering those nebulae, they're huge influence for me for continuing to do what I do.
Sure.
Makes me really want to do what they do, and I wish I could. Yeah, uh,
Mhm.
yeah. I don't know. I don't got
That's okay.
anything else.
Yeah, no pressure, dude. No pressure. Um, that's all good stuff. So, what is something perhaps you've learned along your specific journey of life that you feel like would be like the world would benefit from? That maybe you went through a hardship to learn, or not. Maybe it was just something that came to you easily. It feels like "Yeah, everybody should know this thing. I know this, but everybody should know it."
Ooh. um. I think following your passions. That's a big
Mm,
one for me. I mean, a lot of people, it's kind of hard for a lot of people to find their passion, honestly. Some people
mm,
don't have much of a passion, and I would encourage them to, keep on searching. It'll come to you. And I think when you start sharing your passion with people, it inspires people and makes them, want to push forward with their passions. And I think it benefits everyone honestly. So
yeah,
yeah.
cool. If you were not allowed to pursue astrophotography as a hobby, like there's just some rule of life that was like, dude, you're great at it, you love it, but sorry, you can't. What would be hobby number two? What's the thing next in line? You'd be like, this is the next thing I'd pour all my time, energy, and passion into.
I mean, starting out, I was a photographer. So I mean, I don't know if it's just astrophotography. Can I still do photography? I don't know. I love doing general photography.
As long as you
I've
don't
done
do this, I think you're fine. Yeah, it's gonna be pointed down.
I've done I've done just about everything. I've done portraits, weddings, landscapes, macro. I don't know. I've done, yeah, I've done it all, and I loved it. I did it for a long time. Had quite a few jobs doing photography. Did school portraits.
Hmm.
Honestly, lately though, I've been, I've been getting into smoking meat.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yep. The big culture
Barbecue,
there.
yeah, yeah, and that comes from my dad for sure. He got into that, quite a few years before I did, but I've been doing it for
Mhm.
about 3 years now. And
Great.
I suck at cooking. Don't put me in the kitchen, um, but yeah, for some reason I'm okay with it if it's out on the deck, and
Yeah.
smoking some meat. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's the primal nature of being outdoors and the smells, fire, right? Maybe something that speaks to you there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Would you call yourself an outdoorsman otherwise?
I mean, if you asked me 10 years ago, maybe, but I've become much more of a homebody lately. Like I'm not really big into the idea. Like I see all of these people always traveling, they're always hiking, taking pictures on mountains, and going to this city and that city, going abroad. And I'm like, I just like I at one point I did want to do that, and I'm just like, I don't know if I can do that now. I just like I just want to get the traveling part put behind me, and
Hmm.
just as soon as I leave the house, the only thing I can think about is getting it all behind me and getting back home. I'm
Yeah.
like, maybe I'm just a homebody now. I don't know. I like being around the house. I like doing outdoor. I mean, I like doing outside stuff here. Like
Sure.
mowing the lawns and
Yeah.
keeping up the home and stuff like that. So
Totally. 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 Yeah. Well, I think obviously in the last 3 years, in our culture, there's been this massive shift in forcing us to be homebodies. And I think at this point, kind of like being on the space station, I think we've acclimated to a lot of that, and it does feel very normal to
yeah,
just it's it just wasn't the case for a
right.
very big portion of modern history, and now it is. So I think it's ingrained into our decision making and our desire to want to go out or not go out and see the world or live in it.
Yeah, I mean, like I still want to do that. I think it'd be fun, but it's I don't know. Like if you asked me back, when I was still living with my parents, mowing the lawn, that was a chore. I didn't want to do that, but like now that I'm a homeowner, I actually kind of enjoy doing it now. It's
Yeah,
like I never used to enjoy that stuff. So, but I don't know.
for sure.
It's relaxing, I guess.
Yeah, I totally get that too. I'm the same way. It's at least it depends on the size of your yard, I guess. But like, I mean, for me, it's at least an hour of escape to just tune into
Yeah,
something.
no,
And
I only mowed my lawn with a push mower so many times before I got a rider. I couldn't
oh,
do it anymore.
yeah,
Too
yeah.
much.
Well, I still remain with the push, and have looked at it as like, well, at least I'm like getting some form of physical effort going in. It's not like running or something beyond
Yeah,
cardio.
yeah, but the push mower just started like blistering up my hands every single
Yeah,
time, and I couldn't do it anymore.
yeah. No, I get that. Yeah, it's I always forget to wear gloves too, so it's it's a
Yeah, no,
downfall.
I started wearing gloves, and it made it worse. Like I don't know, I wore the wrong gloves or something.
Totally. Um, yeah, great. So, like, thinking about like you're a father, and you, of course, got a child, right? Is
Hmm.
one child. So,
Yep,
um, there's this generational skip. Like, I think our kids are in this Gen Alpha. Like, you and I are millennials, I believe. So, like,
yep.
when you look at these upcoming generations who are experiencing life so differently than us, like, how would you go about advising them to live well?
Man, that's a loaded question.
Yeah, sorry about that. Or sorry, not sorry.
I mean, on one side of the spectrum, I would say um, listen to the people that have been around longer than you.
Hmm,
Um, but at the same time, it's probably bad information because a lot of you grow up thinking adults know everything, they always do everything right, and then you grow up and you learn they're all con artists and
we're all a
everything,
bunch of clowns, yeah.
right? Like everybody's just selfish, trying to get their own way and everything. So it's like everyone's got their own opinion. So it's like I don't know, if like you gotta listen to
Mhm,
the wise people in your life, I guess.
yeah, and discern who's the wise one.
Discern who's the wise. There's a difference between being smart and being wise. Yeah.
Yes, that's good. I like that a lot. Um, how would you describe yourself in terms of your outlook on life? Optimist, pessimist, realist,
Yeah,
cynic?
I'd go probably more realist. I mean,
Mhm.
for the sake of other people, I might be leaning more pessimism, looking at one situation, but for the sake of someone else, maybe you want to try to be a little more optimistic to encourage someone else. Despite what you actually think about.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but no, I tend to be more of a realist. I think I tend to be pretty anxious about a lot of day-to-day situations, and I'm always erring on the side of caution, and then I'm always you know thinking about the what ifs in my head. What if this, what if that? And that's anxiety, and that's not good.
Yeah.
So but I preach against it too, so it's like I feel the anxiety in myself, but I'm also trying to do my best to
Yeah.
overcome that. So
Gotcha. Yeah. Very good. Um, okay. Yeah. And then I'm going to steal this one from a different podcast that I love because I thought this question was always a really deep one. And when you hear it, you're like, what are you talking about, bro? Um, you look at your phone and you only get to keep 3 apps on your phone. But they're not the stock ones, like photos or mail or whatever it is. Which 3 apps do you choose to keep? They have to be like a downloadable app.
man, I don't have too many. I mean, maybe we'll go, let's say, Netflix, HBO, and maybe TikTok or Facebook.
Mm-hmm. So all the streaming, you're going video streaming.
Yeah, I guess so.
You wouldn't keep any of your like Star Trackers or Night
I
Sky stuff.
mean, I don't,
You'll
I
never
don't
see them
really need,
again.
I don't need the star tracking apps on here really. I mean, like I have my computer for that. I mean, I mean, I have a lot of Astro apps on here, but the only one I really use a lot is, the Astrospheric, the weather app,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I can see what I'm in for the night.
Sure. Okay. Well, fair enough. Those are good choices. I think there's a semblance of self in there that you like. Okay, I need to keep my entertainment level high. Um,
Yeah, I gotta keep my brain occupied sometimes.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Less function, more relaxation.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the day too. I mean, sometimes like if I haven't done a whole lot of watching shows or something, I'll pull up a show. But if I do find my mind kind of trying to think about something to do, I will try to fill that void with what can I do that's what's the word I'm looking for? Progressive,
Mm.
something. What's the word? I can't remember. So something that's actually doing something.
Yeah,
So like I usually try to gear it towards my Astro stuff. What can I do now that if I'm sitting here, it's a rainy day, I'm bored and I can't think of something to do. What can I do on a rainy, cloudy day for maybe something for my scope or my telescope or something like that? Is there some kind of planning I can do? Can I plan my next target or something like that? I'll keep my mind occupied with something related to my Astro stuff.
gotcha. Yeah. That's good. That's good. Um, and then I'll close up on this one here. We'll get you off the hot seat in just a moment. Hang with me. If you had the ability to solve one major global problem within humanity, like what might that particular topic be?
Probably war.
War. Mm-hmm.
War. I mean, I feel like that should be the first thing that everybody thinks of. I think. I
Hmm.
feel like I don't know. War.
Yep. And unnecessary death, um,
Yeah.
collateral damage, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. With that, let's take that hypothetical a step further. So, like, I totally agree with you. Definitely not challenging it, but hypothetical, like war often leads to technological advancement. It drives industry, right? So, like the
It's a
rocket industry,
business.
space flight, space exploration, arguably indebted to World War II. Um, if we did not have World War II, let's say war ended like World War One, um, how long do you think it would have taken for us to get to the moon? If you were to take a wild guess, if we didn't have that the V2 rocket, German engineers,
I mean,
Cold
yeah,
War.
but I could just move that on to the next war. Eventually, we would have come to that point, and it would have gotten invented at some point soon
Right.
anyway. I mean, there may be specific events that trigger, a specific invention of some sort, but in the broader scale of things, that was going to be soon anyway. Someone
Right.
was going to find a way to find a reason to invent that soon anyway. I
Sure.
think society, not just wars, but society is moving at a pace that would have brought it up soon anyway. I think
Yeah. Okay. Right. What if maybe faster? Right. That's always a possibility.
maybe faster. Yeah, yeah. Some
Mhm.
things, some inventions are flukes. They weren't even. Some inventions were accidents. Yeah.
Right. For sure. Yeah. Well, had the timeline been accelerated, perhaps all of us will be doing who knows what kind of astrophotography today. If we went to the moon in 1947 instead of 1969, I don't know. It's crazy to think about.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. You're talking about like I don't know, all those time traveling movies where you change one little thing and see how it affects everything else down the road. And
Yeah, we were just talking about that last week about with Tara about the For All Mankind series that's on Apple TV Plus.
Mhm.
Are you watching that at all?
No, I'm not. Which one is that about?
Yeah, I won't spoil any plot because it's currently premiering season 4
I
right
mean,
now.
ballpark. What is it?
Yeah, so the right, but the general premise is what if the Soviets landed on the moon first?
Oh, I did hear about that. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing the trailers for that. That looks really interesting.
Yeah, it's a very very good show, but yeah, it's literally the fork in the road, like, and it follows this total deviation in history, and it's very very intriguing. But it's kind of similar to what we're talking about, like.
Yeah, but we all know from Back to the Future, if you want to change it, you have to go back before that point.
Yeah, yeah, right. Good sci-fi references. Yeah, then there's that bit in Endgame and Avengers Endgame where they're talking about you can't do that because they're Back to the Future. I don't know. They made a big reference to that at that point where they're trying not
Right,
to
right,
time travel. Um,
right.
Somebody got it right. I don't. One of them. Not definitely not me. That's for sure.
Yeah, not many time travel movies do get it right, unfortunately.
Right. Oh my gosh. Well, if we leave everything to the hands of film directors, I don't know. We'd either be better off or worse off. One of the two.
I do like movies that do kind of like go into general relativity. I think John's gonna hate me for this, but Interstellar, he hates Interstellar. I
Really?
think I think Interstellar was so cool just because I was so fascinated by general relativity when I was
Mhm.
finally able to start grasping it and understanding it. I thought time dilation was just like
Mhm.
they're out of their minds. What are they talking about? That's not real. And then I started understanding it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's actually a thing. It's like time dilation is real,
Yep.
and that I think that is one of the most mind blowing concepts out there.
Right. Like gravitationally influenced time. Like.
Yeah, like the fact that there's someone in this place could be aging faster than someone at this place, but they both experience it the same. It doesn't feel like it's moving faster for you, but it is,
Mhm.
and there's always a now. If you connected the dots, if you connected those two people by a line on a timeline, maybe one's moving faster than another, but there's always a now being connecting the two. There's always the now is always like the same, but it's moving faster for some. I'm not gonna try to explain it.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, I follow you. Interstellar is in my top 3 favorite movies of all time. Unbelievable movie.
Yeah, I think it is
Um,
my favorite.
I just talked with some friends about it. One of which, at least, both of them were in this chat a little while ago, but talking about that whole premise. And I brought up how astronaut Chris Hadfield talked about how NASA or Canadian Space Agency or whoever it was, one of the space agencies did the math, and he spent 5+ months in space. Technically, he came back to Earth like 0.0005% younger than when he left.
Right, right. So even even the satellites, the GPS satellites, and more specifically up there, they have to account for time dilation because they are experiencing less gravity up there, and it's a
Yep.
minuscule amount. But I mean, like being up there for so long, like it does have an effect. So they are experiencing time dilation. So and they knew that before they sent them up there. So
Right, right. And it's just insane that we can calculate it. And obviously, to the average day-to-day experience, that amount of measurement is completely insignificant. But to your point that GPS satellites or whatever operational equipment is out there is required to account for it.
right, yeah, and I mean, like, especially the ones that involve, they have to work well with timing and GPS. It has to be the timing has to be right with your GPS.
Yeah,
So,
right.
um, yeah,
Oh, it's so
it's
cool.
it's just a mind blowing concept to me, and I'll always just be, uh, yeah, dumbfounded.
At its mercy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, dude, thanks for sitting in the hot seat and going through the ringer with me. I know it's a little bit of a what do we do? But I appreciate it. I think it was a lot of fun to hear your thoughts and to dig a little bit deeper into you as a person. Thank you for doing
yeah,
that.
absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, dude. I know you're seeing some more praise in here. Thank you so much, Tara, for saying this. And I agree. I mean, hearing about everything that Elliot has done and gone through is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I appreciate all the nerds too. I mean, I pick on them a lot, and I'm really sassy, but I love them all, and you know who you are. There's a few of you in here.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
sassy towards, but I love them all. So
Right. Well, that's how true.
grateful for all of them, especially the mods that come in that have been around for a long time.
For sure. Yeah. Well, like the true sign I think of love is we know you can razz somebody and
Yeah,
it increases your love for that person.
everybody can handle it.
Right. Exactly. I think we've got something special in this group.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, Elliot, thank you so much, man. From me, thank you for making the time to be here tonight. This is a long run, and I'm incredibly grateful that you took a chance on the Galactic Window. And you're doing amazing things. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank
And
you. I appreciate it.
however I can be there for you. I mean, obviously, I'm so much less of a resource comparatively, but if it's just a keep it going or a way to go, I'll have an infinite number of those for you along the way
Well,
as
if
you
I
explore
start
the universe.
photographing the International Space Station, I'm coming to you next.
Yeah, totally, man. Yeah, well, you just let me know, and I'll be there. You
Will
won't have
do.
to ask me twice.
Good.
Well, thanks,
And,
man.
I'm sorry for talking everyone's ear off about my like once I get going, it's hard for me to put a period on the end of my sentences. So I apologize for that in the beginning, and I'll do it again now. But
dude, literally, that's why I made this whole thing is so that we can, relax about. Oh, I just hit my mic. Relax about, having to feel like we need to keep it concise. Just
right,
let it loose. Let the nerd show.
yep, exactly.
Cool, dude. Well, it's been a pleasure meeting you too. This was really the kind of first true time that you and I've had a really long dialogue, and
Yeah,
I certainly hope it's not the last. And I'm glad to call you a friend, man. Thank you.
yeah. You too. Thanks.
Cool. Well, have a good night, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. See you later, Nick.
All right, let's dial it in. Everybody in the chat who's stuck it out for 2 hours and 38 minutes, you guys are the best. Thank you for your support of the Galactic Window and the Orbital Alliance. This has been so much fun. Again, all types of different people here in the chat representing different phases of my life, phases of the internet, different places and different corners. I think it just shows the capacity that good people have. And if you're just coming across this podcast right now, and this is the first first episode you've heard, again, I'll encourage you to go back and listen to past episodes with other amazing folks, and to be sure to subscribe so you don't miss upcoming episodes that are be coming down the pipe. I'm releasing an episode within the first half of the month and the second half of the month, so not necessarily once every 2 weeks, but somewhere in that range. So you can expect that pace. And I'm just gonna throw a little bit more. You're very welcome, Daz. Thanks for being here. I see Tan, dude. All the milk love right there. Thank you, Blue Eye. Good to see you. Oh gosh, everybody. Tara and who else? Karen was in here. Hey, KS. Thanks for coming in. Thank you. Yes, great info, Elliot. Elliot was amazing. So good to have him in. Cool. All right, you guys. I'm gonna sign off. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful night. And of course, as always, I will see you all on the other side.